With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
The storylines from round one continue over to tonight, but there's another wrinkle to be thrown in the mix. A new track on the iRacing service in the form of Magny-Cours. This former F1 layout is tricky and full of twists and turns with plenty of places to get it wrong, and these drivers are in for a technical challenge here tonight. Hello everyone and welcome to round two of the PRL Monday Night Series. First up, the GR86 Series. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the commentary booth by Justin Prince with art director and producer Hugo Louise behind the scenes. Justin, it's now been a few weeks since this track has shown up on the service, but these drivers still probably have much to master, as this is a track that is very, very difficult to get right.
That's an understatement for a lot of these competitors tonight, because this is a track that has a mixture of it all. It's fast sections where you have a chance to be able to draft off each other and try and set up some passes before the hard braking zones. A mixture of technical corners and mid-speed sections that will really challenge your balance and ability to be able to hold on in the midst of higher tempo speeds. And of course, when it comes to a race like this, the chance in turn for drivers to have to see how they can find the different nuances, the different little bits where they can find the speed at a track such as this, especially since in many people's cases and many people's feedback so far involving this combination tonight, it's a fun one, it's a challenging one, it's one where your drivers have to be skilled.
They will indeed, and we will be able to see exactly just how skilled they are. But before we do and we get ready to go into qualifying coverage, let's go ahead and take a look at the schedule. Obviously, last time out we started at VIR. We are now here in France. We head to Laguna Seca, Summit Point, Fuji, Tsukuba, Oschersleben, Olten Park, Road America, and end the season at Rudskogen. And Justin, that's about as diverse of a schedule as you could ask for here in the GR86 series.
That's a bit of an understatement when it comes to the different types of racetracks. Of course, VIR with the loss of its famous tree to the virtual counterpart. But when it comes to these circuits, you have the mixture of some of the beginner circuits for some competitors that have a few passing opportunities with the draft, and others that are fairly technical. I think, for example, keep an eye, for example, Road America towards the closing stages, because usually that can be a wild one because of how many drafting spots there are.
Yeah, certainly can be. And ending the season at Rudskogen is going to be a real challenge for these drivers. But as we said, already one race here in the books. Let's go ahead and check out the championship standings. It is Justin Adokins that is leading the way there up at the top of the charts. Owen Watts behind him. Kevin Sandiego rounds out in third with Barrios, Farewell, Aaron Law, and Kelly Greenhoe in seventh. Then it's Andrew Sharp, Patrick Farrell, and Michael Chase who round out the top 10. Obviously some pretty close gaps there, considering that only one race has been won. We should get a better idea of how the standings will actually shake out tonight, but we also have a teams championship here in the GR86 series, and it is Red Tip Factory Racing Team up at the top of the charts with 69 points. A little bit more difference here among the drivers. Dark Horse Esports running in second, then it's YS Motorsports, Unlimited Slip, Crikey Esports, Walking Pace Racing, Ninja Trader Esports, Monkey Butt Rides, Moonlight Speed, and Lunatic Racing, and then URF Motorsports. Looking there like Red Tip Factory, the team to beat, but obviously with only one round, Justin, we're not really going to get a sense of how everything's going to shake itself out until we get into the meat of this season.
I was about to say, it's early in the campaign. There are plenty of chances to see some ebbs and flows when it comes to not just the driver's side, but the team side. Because if there's a slip up from a driver in terms of consistency, if there's a slip up in terms of the organization in their preparation for a race, it can really set them on back. And even the difference of two drivers from one team can really separate things out. But indeed, a good start when you have a team like Red Tip 1-2 last round before Christmas.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. But before we get into the racing action, we want to thank our many sponsors here for tonight, including the virtual competition organization, without which none of our coverage here of the Precision Racing League would be possible. So a massive, massive thank you out to VCO. We'd also like to thank Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members get a 5% discount on ASR products by using the Precision 5 coupon code. We'd also like to thank Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are enjoyable additions to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Also thanks to RaceLab Apps. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. Also thanks to the Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products provide an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Also thanks to Mecha Sim Hardware. They're a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you are looking for high-end pedal sets, a handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. And finally, thanks to Ninja Trader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, Ninja Trader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. Ninja Trader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Well, with the business out of the way, we get ready to go racing once and for all here from the French countryside, and it is a 4-lap solo qualifying session, so no use of the draft here as we were used to seeing in the MX-5 series. That's going to make things a little bit more down to the driver, I would have to think, Justin. You're not going to be able to use that draft off the driver in front of you to try to get a little bit more speed as we watch Michael Chase here flicking his way through the first of the many chicanes around this circuit. Chase hoping for a good performance here tonight.
And keep in mind, Michael Chase was the quickest driver in final practice tonight in the 156.6s. As a matter of fact, the separation for some of the drivers as high as 5 seconds tonight, DJ. And there were plenty of discussions in the midst of that practice session on the setup, the differences between, say, from the fixed series and compared to what the fixed setup may be for these competitors tonight, to be able to adjust to things, DJ. And that's where some of the preparation comes in, right? Making sure you put in all the practice. They had 2 hours to get acclimated with how this car would feel tonight for this race with these track conditions, especially with how hot it is.
Yeah, and it's a very, very tricky thing to get yourself up to speed. A lot of these drivers, as we said, relatively new to this Magny-Cours circuit, and it is one that will catch you out. One of the things that we were particularly talking about before the broadcast, Justin, was there as we see Michael Chase proving my point. Some of the big curves there on the particularly the entrance to some of these chicanes, they can really throw you for a loop in these GR86s.
I was about to say, when it comes to the curbs and around this racetrack in particular, DJ, people really like to take pictures of them running on top of those curbs. It's that type of a circuit where in some cases you need to be comfortable with running along the curbs. in some spots. Not, though, in those and say that can destabilize the car like we just seen in the final corner to start off this lap through 16 and 17. But in some sections, you need to be prepared to maximize that line tonight. And especially with it being one of the newest tracks on the service, it's a fairly even playing field for these drivers to do what they need to do tonight.
Yeah, fairly even playing field. Everyone at a little bit of disadvantage that this isn't a circuit that's sort of baked into the wall of the minds of all of these drivers. Is there we see Chase with a good clobber of the curbs coming down into I believe that was Nürburgring, as he now works his way through 180 and back around right now. Drivers have to figure out what that line is between aggression and caution to be able to take those curbs, and I think the drivers who are going to be able to maximize on that is going to be those are going to be the drivers that do the best here. As I look down at the timing charts, it's pretty well spread out. We're not seeing a single driver dominating in purple sections. Looks like Jared Farewell is going to have the fastest first sector, followed by Soboleski, who will have the fastest second sector, and then it is this man, Michael Chase, that looked pretty quick through the last sector on the last lap. So we will have to see how everything shakes out. Again, 4 laps, 10 minutes for these drivers to be able to get their qualifying times down, and I've got to think here, with as long as this circuit is clocking in at just under 3 miles, may not see the full 4 laps getting taken as Chase gets it wrong through the final corner and noses into the bear here.
Yet again, clamoring and clobbering those curbs we just talked about. Just way too much curbing, as well as some grass on the final part of the racetrack there. You need to make sure you get it just right, and that could be based on what we've seen in final practice especially, but also to start off qualifying. It could very much be a major danger spot today before you hit that front straightaway. Here is Barrios, for example. Curious how his differences in approach will be. He was second quickest in practice.
Yeah, we'll have to see here if he's maybe a little bit more cautious, although it looks like here that this is not necessarily a fast lap there for him. He was holding on to 4th gear for a very, very long time. I can tell you that up at the top of the charts right now, it is your points leader, Justin Adakonis, leading the way right now to the tune of about 0.6 of a second over Michael Lordy. Rob Campbell is in 3rd, about 0.5 of a second off of Lordy. Then it's Farewell and Duff rounding out, that's Richard Swindell's rounding out your top 5. And once again, Justin, those big gaps up at the front of the field presenting themselves once again. I mean, 0.6 of a second, that is nothing to shake a stick at.
It's actually a little surprising how big some of the separations are so far, but you have to consider when it comes to this car, there are a lot of characteristics to its predecessor for Monday Night Action in terms of the Mazda MX-5. But the cornering speeds are different, how they drive in turn a little bit is different in terms of how you handle, how you try and time up the line in turn. And I think it's more so being seen when these drivers are running individually, how comfortable they are with the circuit, how in turn they're able to play things out. It's not as simple as, per se, like we may see in the race conditions where some of the drivers will have the assistance of the draft down at least 2 or 3 of the major straights.
Yeah, certainly will. As we watch here, Barrios coming out of the final corner right now. He is going to cross over the line. Let's see where that puts Mariano. That will be up into 3rd. But for a moment there, Kevin Sandiego was able to take the top position. Then Justin Adakonis was able to steal it right back. We now follow Jonathan Dam as he comes down through the corners. Let's see if he's going to be able to keep everything together through that very, very tricky Lassay final chicane. He will cross over the line and jump up into 4th place. So those gaps starting to come down a little bit at the top of the field. And indeed, from 2nd on back, it is relatively close running, but still a 0.4 of a second advantage here for Justin in the 318.
Almost think for some of these drivers' cases, the tires are starting to warm up, the comfortability's picking up, because as we've seen in a lot of cases, the 2nd or 3rd lap usually are amongst the best laps for qualifying. In the 1st lap, the tires are cool. It can be very tricky to make sure you get the proper grip on the cool tires. 159 flat, for example, into the top 10 and goes the 879. But you have to be able to make sure you don't make any mistakes in those opening laps in the first place, because you make a crash like we see Michael Chase do, for example, it puts you behind the 8 ball to be able to try and maximize and optimize the tire pressures.
Yeah, it really does, and we'll have to see if he is able to continue to move. By the way, Chase, as I look on live time and scoring screen is farther down the order. He's in 27th right now, which is the last of anyone that has put down a lap. We focus here, though. Ooh, that's going to be an off track for the 19 of Patrick Farrell. Looks like that wasn't going to be good there for him. It looked like it could have been a good lap, but probably just brought the car a little bit too far wide. And again, there coming through the long right-hander. That was certainly an area where he'd like to have that back. All four tires dipping off out of the white line. That, of course, counting as an off track, and the way the iRacing system works, that will invalidate his lap. As now he comes down through Lassay. Let's wait to see Aaron Law able to bump his way up into that is going to be 8th position. Farrell looks like he is not going to improve there, as we thought that lap discounted by the service.
It wasn't discounted, but it wasn't quicker either way. And keep in mind, this is one of the tracks on the platform which has special rules when it comes to the off-track limits. Interestingly, a lot of drivers are electing to run along that green turf or green part of the pavement per se. When try and maximize as much space as possible, it seems there. There are some special limitations, for example, in turns 5, 8, 13, 14, along with 15, and of course that final chicane. More so if you take the inside part of the chicane, if you miss the second part of that corner and miss the turtle.
Yeah, very much so. That is the line to be able to take, as now we focus back on Michael Chase, who was able to get a good competitive time in. That will bring him up into 4th place as he pilots his way out of Adelaide right now and makes the run towards the Nürburgring chicane and into 180. Let's see how he takes this. Again, very aggressive there with this curbing. The suspension on these GR86 is able to take a good thwack like that and handling it very well. Little bit of oversteer there mid-corner, but he's able to keep it gathered up back under him and keep that slip together. Could be on for another good lap here, potentially, as he works his way on through. Let's see as he lines his way down into the Imola chicane right now. Again, the big sausage curb on the inside. He's going to take a perfectly good amount there coming in to Chateau d'Eau, and he's going to bring that corner down. Looks like pretty good lines here from Chase. He'll be looking to improve potentially.
Just ran out of time, though, DJ.
Yes, he did. Is there? I wasn't even looking at the clock as the 10-minute marker hits over, and we're ready here to go racing tonight. Let's go ahead and bring you the starting order for tonight's GR86 event. Lining up in pole position, it is the 318 of Justin Ataconis. Then it's Kevin Sandiego in P2. Mariano Barrios will be in P3, followed by Michael Chase, with Jonathan Dam and Gerard Farewell behind them in 6th. 7th will be Patrick Farrell, followed by Michael Lordy, then Aaron Law and Matthew Reganar. Then it's Andrew Sharp in 11th, followed by Rob Campbell in 12th place. 13th will be Kwok Nin, followed by Richard Swindells, with Kevin Berquist and Jeff Parsons 16th. Andrew Venaro lines up 17th, followed by Ian Cabana in 18th, with Brian Soboleski and Kelly Greenhoe rounding out your top 20. It's Brett Carricoff in 21st, followed by Stephen Hellewell, with Rich Butler and Baron Glover in 24th. 25th is Mark File, followed by Josh Kimball. Then it's Malcolm Foster, Justin Williams, and William Sullivan to round out your 29-car field here today. A full pace lap in store for everyone. And Justin, with track temperatures at about 90 degrees Fahrenheit there, ambient air at about 76, I've got to imagine that these drivers aren't going to have to do too much to get those tires up to temperature, but they are going to want to make sure that they are getting the brakes into that operating window, because this first corner that they have to fling their way through, going through Estoril, a very, very high commitment corner. When you're starting too wide, that can be a little bit sketchy.
That's an understatement when it comes to the potential of today, especially since if you nail things up right when it comes to Estoril, the run up through Gulf all the way up to Adelaide can be a very critical chance to be able to jump up and leapfrog a couple cars if you're able to survive turns 1 through 3. That's the understatement right there. But the key thing to also think about here is, remember, in this series with this car, the maximum fuel is just 30%. So keep that in mind over the course of 35 minutes.
yeah, we will more than likely see a pit stop here in this series. There have been a couple of times when we have been surprised, particularly in the GT3 cars. We've seen a chance or two that pit stop won't occur if somebody's able to be good at saving fuel, but we should see a pit stop here for these drivers, and that will obviously be a little bit of a wrench into the works. We're still figuring out a little bit of the strategy here for these GR86 machines. We kind of had it all worked out in the MX-5s, and now they throw a wrench into us with these new additions into the iRacing service and throw it out again, but it'll be a good run nonetheless. There we see a little bit of that weaving from Kevin Sandiego, and I would be remiss here at this point if I didn't say it. Where in the world is Kevin Sandiego? Thank you, and that is a shout out to our very own Joey Tebbin. We had to get that one in there.
Once again, Joey definitely will appreciate the effort. A bit high tune.
When I sang, I was a tenor, so, you know, it's how it goes.
Wait, you were a tenor?
I was, believe it or not, I was actually a tenor.
I didn't know that. In terms of that, in turn, I think some of these drivers are going to be wanting to make sure they sing their way through the racetrack without going off the circuit. Make sure they get things timed up right. Make sure they get the right pitch down for the exact moment. And I'm talking that into the phonetic of trying to make sure you hit your way forward up to turn 5. That's going to be the critical start to this race. But depending on how crazy things get for these drivers, for the first official race here at PRL, for the series at this racetrack, it could be tricky. Let's put it that way for some of the drivers based on some of the feedback and some of the nervousness in the paddock.
Yeah, very much so. As you mentioned before the race, there were some concerns being floated about the setup here. The drivers weren't exactly sure what it is. That's going to be a little bit of a wrench into the works, and drivers are going to have to be careful about that, because what we've heard is that some of them have been training with a different setup, and that can really and truly absolutely throw your complete race out of whack for these drivers. So they're going to have to be careful about that. As we watch here, Kevin Sandiego on your screen, bringing the car around with Ataconis to his outside as they work their way out of Chateau d'Eau and down this sort of curving straightaway that leads into Lissay. We get ready to be able to drop the green flag. Justin, quickly, we've only got a couple of corners to go, but what is your big talking point for the night? What are you watching out for?
Big talking point, keep it clean in the opening laps. And in turn, if you can keep it clean in the opening laps, get ready to see if you can break away with the rest of the leaders.
And speaking of breaking away, there goes the green, and we are racing here in France. It was a brilliant start from Ataconis. He absolutely got onto the loud pedal coming out of Lissay, and he is going to find himself having a 3 or 4 car length advantage as they dive down into the first corner. Looks like the first 5 or 6 cars are going to be able to get through that high commitment corner relatively well, as now they work their way through the right-hander of Estoril. Looks like Lordy and Farrell there farther back in the field find themselves side by side, trying to be able to get themselves. Farrell actually dropping down 2 positions here at this point. There's a little bit of side by side farther back in the field, but about the top 7 or so continue to remain single file.
Already some of the drivers lining up the draft as talked about. You see that heart of the pack 3 wide. Kevin Sandiego easily slipping by the 318 to take the race lead with that draft. And there is the chance in turn with how the drafting could be. They'll leapfrog others. They'll do this if he hit the grass.
Yeah, that was Matthew Wegener getting things wrong there, and you can see the smoke getting kicked up from that. I think he just touched the grass on the entrance down into the corner, as now they fly their way through Nürburgring. Ataconis trying to be able to see if he's going to be able to hold tight with Kevin Sandiego, not let that draft slip away, as now the field is really and truly single file here at this point as they work their way out of 180 right now. Trying to see if anybody's going to have a little bit of a run here. It looks like Ataconis is actually under a little bit of trouble here, as Mariano Barrios is now looking to try to overtake your pole sitter.
Barrios looking like he's really timing up these lines in the early going. The tough thing right now is just waiting for the passing opportunities to open up. Choosing the right chance to be able to build up the run. This is one of the final opportunities potentially to make your way towards turn 15. If you can get close enough, just seems to be breaking about even in terms of the speed.
Yeah, braking just about even in terms of the speed. Going to get onto the binders here, going down into Lassay. Let's see, as we've got a pass farther back down in the field. That is Jonathan Dam getting aggressive and moving his way forward. Excuse me, that was Farewell actually able to get that move done on Jonathan Dam, that for 5th place position.
What did I say? Keep it clean at the start. Look to run away with the rest of your lead group. And guess what? The top 3 are already trying to run away. In the heart of the pack, though, you have drivers like YS Motorsports' Andrew Sharp. Just about looking absolutely everywhere, DJ. Inside, outside, trying to set up a diamond line even to try and find some ground to gain after losing spots to start.
Yeah, he is down 1 position here. Kwok Min able to gain 2 back as we now ride on board with Rob Campbell. Campbell under a little bit of pressure here. Here comes the poke to the inside. That's going to be Farrell trying to be able to make that move as they get onto the binders. You can see the cars absolutely pitched forward going down into Adelaide, and that is going to be Farrell running wide. That's position gained over to Rob Campbell. Campbell's going to be able to hold it off, but now we've got a little bit of a battle coming up behind as Andrew Sharp looks to be able to make the move.
Something is, though, Sharp doesn't have the draft he needs heading up towards Imola. Just had to give it up. Can't go side by side of that section too easily with how tight that part of the track is.
No, you really can't. It's pretty much a one-way street into there, and you can go too wide down here into 180, but that's a little bit more difficult to be able to get anything to go. Let's see here as they work their way right now around. We continue to follow Farrell as he closes in on the back of Rob Campbell, flicking their way through the Imola chicane right now. These cars bounding over the curbs, a little bit more curb on the exit there for Farrell, I believe, and now as they come down through Chateau d'Eau, it's going to lead back again, and the draft coming right back into play.
And this is a major trend to think about. I had chatted a bit with Casey Kerwin, in fact, about this car because he runs a lot of road racing, runs in special events, and he mentioned the characteristics in some cases are similar indeed to the MX-5. So if you can drive an MX-5, you likely can drive this GR86. It's just that cornering difference we discussed that really separates things, the amount of speed you can carry through the corners. And right now we're seeing just some of these drivers struggling a little bit on carrying the same amount of speed at the same marks compared to some of the lead cars. Some others can absolutely fling it like the 19 of Farrell.
Yeah, Farrell just being able to get a really good line there through Estoril. He's going to be fully tucked back on the back of Rob Campbell here as the draft comes into play. Campbell holding off to the right-hand side of the track, no doubt trying to go a little bit defensive to hold off any of the attacks here from the number 19. But now as he moves back to the left-hand side of the track to try to take the optimal line down into the Adelaide hairpin. Late on the binders there is Farrell. Is he going to be able to get the car slowed down? He overshoots the corner, over-under for Rob Campbell, and Campbell will hold on to the position for now.
Good smart play by Campbell. Outsmart your opponent. Just simply wait for the chance for them to overdrive it, cross them back up. Campbell taking a veteran move right there to let that happen to be able to keep the position and settle back in.
Yeah, very good one. A big twitch there, though, for Farrell coming down into 180. I'm not sure what precipitated that. Behind him, looks like Kwok Min had a little bit of a bad run through the corner as Andrew Sharp is now going to be trying to have a little bit of a look. He'll back off now as this is a close battle with the YS Motorsport driver trying to be able to get a move on Kwok Min. Let's see as they come now through Imola. That didn't play out. YS Motorsport's Andrew Sharp going to have to stay behind for now, and there's really just not enough straight line speed to be able to get a good blast here going down into Chateau d'Eau, but there is the good crossover from Sharp. He's going to be on the attack.
Just about pushed up the track the 86 did there. Sharp just doesn't again have that whiff of the draft. It just seems like if you even step out a little bit, even if you have some of that advantage a little bit on the corner, unless you outright beat them by a significant margin for the start of that corner exit, you need that draft to set it up for the corner entry, the next corner. We already seen that whiff of the draft just helping the 86 of Clarkman to be able to defend, even if it's that tiny bit, just barely within the 2 seconds.
Yeah, very true, and you've got to be able to hold that out all the way through the lap. As now here it looks like Sharp is losing a little bit of momentum, losing a little bit of time. Let's go ahead and check you back in on the battle for the lead because Kevin Sandiego has got some company, and as does Ataconis here at this point, as that was a big look to the inside for Mariano Barrios as they came down into Adelaide right here at this point. A 3-car battle breaking away from Michael Chase. They've got about 2 seconds in separation.
Right now, Mario's just looking and waiting, seeing how do you plan this out? How do you slice this? How do you try and see if you can capitalize on a mistake from the popcorn seat? And the thing is, I think it's critical for him. Just keep within the 1 second. Keep close to them. Set yourself up for potential success for the final few minutes before, in turn, you can make the move. We're already seeing the tin top machine, the red tip machine, already deciding amongst themselves. Let's wait. Let's see what happens. Let's shuffle things out after the pit stop strategy appears. Just save.
Well, how many times have we seen this, both in the later series tonight, the GT4 series, as well as in the previous MX5 series? So many drivers just holding behind, maybe doing a little bit of fuel saving here at this point. We haven't really talked about the advantages of being able to do that in the draft, but certainly happening right now as here we watch out the back of your leader's machine, the number 88, doing a good job there through the final chicanes, able to grow that gap a little bit by about 1/10 of a second. But fuel saving can be very, very key. These drivers will have to take a pit stop, no doubt, and I have to think when they do, if you're able to save, even if it's just a couple of few little gallons of fuel, that could be enough to maybe get you the jump in the pit stop cycle.
That's the huge key. Remember when it came from the Mazda MX-5 competitions, that was a make or break strategy call, where the best of the best were able to stretch it out to the right time in terms of fuel. Not just in terms of when they pit, but also how much fuel they were able to take in turn to the pit stop. Seconds is time. As simple as that. Fuel is time when it comes to these types of cars too. And don't be surprised if that is exactly what is the thought process for these two trailing San Diego. San Diego in turn, likely burning a bit more gas, being the lead car.
Likely burning a bit more fuel, and I'd be curious to see if we maybe see a lift here out of San Diego at some point, letting either Ataconis or Barrios on by him, but we will have to wait and see how that continues to play itself out as they continue to work their way through Estoril right now, out of that long left-hander. We're not seeing a lot of aggression here. Again, I think this is a combination of fuel saving, and because this is a new track, Justin, that age-old adage of just holding behind another driver...
Kevin San Diego hit a lot of the curbing there, just about spun it there in Inlaw.
Yeah, he did. A very, very big moment there from your leader. Didn't look like it cost him all that much time, thankfully, but at this point he is going to be able to keep ahead, and it actually looks like it's Ataconis that could be under a little bit more pressure here from Barrios if he wants to try to make a move down into Lasay. No, nothing going to happen there. Good taking of the curb from all drivers as they come down now through the chicane. Oh, that was a big bounding there from Kevin San Diego. Let's take a look on board here, Justin. Oh, look at that opposite lock. Barely able to hold on to it.
Yeah, very, very lucky to be able to hold on to it. A little bit more late on the reaction. We're talking about a different race leader there because he just missed that line, it seemed, by about a few feet. But remember, when it comes to the best of the best on the platform, right? It comes to a matter of inches. The exact line you take could be the difference between a couple 100s, in some cases even a couple tenths of a second per sector in turn if you make a mistake.
Exactly. Racing is all about those infinitesimal, those micro gaps that you have to manage here. And these drivers up at the front of the field, rest assured, are some of the best as they go. As we continue to watch Barrios trying to close in behind, trying to see if there is going to be anything to happen here, as it's now down minutes, clicking on down the order. We are at about 24 minutes to go. Here's a little bit of a battle farther back in the field. Josh Kimball finding himself under all kinds of attack here. Mark File and Stephen Helliwell trying to go in. That is going to be File down to the inside of Adelaide. He's able to get the run off of the corner, and he's able to start pushing.
Now this is an absolute hornet's nest. You have Kimball, who's been trying to play defense this entire time, starting from the very back of the field. You have an angry bunny when it comes to Mark File, and how much anger there is in the look of that paint scheme. And then, of course, you have the one car getting dive-bombed by two carways back and set up the track.
That's Justin Williams and Stephen Helliwell there getting it all wrong. Helliwell just absolutely calling the Estoril corner wrong, and Justin, an absolutely hapless passenger in all of that.
He absolutely missed the braking zone, it looked like. And not only that, DJ, he hit the brakes so hard that when he jumped into the brakes, it just shot him to the left up to that grass. And again, the marks need to be precise. Williams, I think, is done for the day, and our car, Kimball, involved in that, just about done for the day. Just went off again as we look up front.
Yeah, we look a little farther up in the field here. This is Ian Cabana right now in a bit of a draft train. That's Kevin Berkowitz and Brian Soboleski up ahead of him. Andrew Venaro leading this little pack. Behind Cabana is Brett Karakov, and that is the whole field here for them as they now work their way through the first corner. Let's take a look at the replay here. I believe this was, a spin there out of the 978. Josh Kimball just getting it all wrong on his own.
At a very bad spot. Just about hit on the door several times because he was about 90 degrees sideways on the racetrack. Just tough, difficult to do there. How about some difficult battling here? The packs are starting to break up from 3s and 6s towards the backing. Getting smaller and smaller with how heavy these competitors want to go.
They certainly are, as Farewell almost getting things wrong there, and that's going to allow for Jonathan Dam to pick the pocket of the number 65 just a little bit off, and that was all the invitation there that Dam needed to be able to get the move done down into Estoril. It looks here like Farewell's going to try to have a little bit of a response, but I think he's too far back. He just doesn't quite have it to be able to get that play to run, as really and truly, you were absolutely prescient when you were talking about minimizing mistakes around here today. Justin, is going to be the way to get yourself farther up in the field.
Yeah, some of the drivers who didn't have the greatest qualifying runs, like Kelly Greenhoe, have been able to move up 6 spots in the heart of the pack, for example. But the major thing is the top 6, for the most part, are lockstep on where they started. They started off well in qualifying. They've been able to minimize most troubles, and the pit window's open. An early call, 21 minutes to go, and there goes the 65.
Yeah, it's Gerard Farewell coming down into pit lane. As we said, a little bit early here from what we would expect, but we will have to see if that's a good call. There is also Andrew Sharp coming down into pit lane as well, so clearly this does mean the pit stop window is open. As Justin, I think you've got some news here on the car number 1, Stephen Helliwell.
Our first DQ of the night has been given to Helliwell. And how do I put this, DJ? If you miss your pit box in this type of a race, the one major key to think about is, what do you do if you miss it? Do you go around again? Do you try and back up to the pit stall? Here's the tough thing. Or Helliwell can say he backed up all the way down the lane. You see, he's already missed his stall, and then he realizes it halfway down the pit lane. And that's a warning from the sim going backwards on the track. And by the time he finds his pit stall, that's way too far back to go backwards in the pit lane. Very unsafe in the sim. Bye-bye.
Yep, that is an official disqualification handed down by iRacing itself, so nothing that the stewards can do, as indeed we don't have live stewards in this series. All incidents are reviewed and all protests are reviewed after the race. We check you back in on the battle for the lead. Kevin Sandiego, Justin Ataconis, and Mariano Barrios there. 1, 2, 3. They are growing the gap between themselves and Michael Chase. It's now up to about 4.5 seconds, and now it looks like Ataconis is starting to try to make a little bit of a push here. Last time's winner really starting to hassle the number 88, really keeping some pressure back to it. Looks like no drivers opting to come down into the pit lane out of this leading pack, but could we see a pass here? Justin certainly has the momentum. He's going to keep that car to the outside. Now thinks about fading down to the inside. He's not going to go for the move. He is content where he is, just wants to stay in line.
A lot of pitting from the top 10 already, but you're right in terms of how aggressive things are going. I think Ataconis is starting to think, okay, there's some mistakes being shown from Sandiego. There's a chance now to maybe make this pass right before you come in and control the destiny of the pack. Remember, he saved fuel essentially for about half this race. Eventually, you have to hit the go button. Here he goes.
Here he goes indeed, looking down to the outside there of Adelaide, going to try to carry some more speed. He's at least going to have a little bit of an overlap, but the question's going to be is how well is he going to be able to hold on to it? It looks like he's going to have a nose ahead as they come out of the corner. Barrios back in the popcorn position just watching this battle play out, and San Diego gives up the ghost. He falls into the line before they work their way through the Nürburgring chicane. Ataconis back up into the lead.
Ataconis played that really well. I think he noticed San Diego was starting to make mistakes. I think he said again, no, you know what? Let's take the lead. We know we're pitting soon. It's halfway through this race, about halfway through the next lap. May as well see if you can try and build a bit of a buffer maybe. Try and see if you can manage to break the toe like a couple drivers have so far tonight.
Yeah, I think that may be the way to go, and I think you really hit the nail on the head there. Pit stops probably inbound from these drivers is the last couple of laps of the race and the last couple of laps before pit stops normally tend to be when you see these drivers getting a little bit more aggressive, and no matter what kind of machinery we throw out onto the track. Ataconis' gap, by the way, 0.3 of a second as they break now down into the right-hander, and doesn't look like the pit stop's coming there from any of these top three. I have to say I'm a little bit surprised by that. I would have thought that it would have fired off here, but we'll see if there are any other takers in the field. I think we had maybe one other car slip down into pit lane. Doesn't look like Jonathan Dam or Michael Chase is going to be coming in. Dam, by the way, able to get by Chase on that last lap. And color me wrong, looks like the top 8 all staying out.
You have to keep in mind, though, DJ, and about halfway you have to take a lot more fuel than you would, for example, in, say, 5 laps to go or 6 laps to go. To put this in perspective, Andrew Sharp has already had a 10-second pit stop. Some of the others who pit a couple laps later, 8 seconds. Kevin San Diego going back and forth for the draft once again. No surprise with the back and forth with the toe. Now it's going to be the matter. How is this going to play out side by side for second?
Side by side for second, Ataconis there to the inside. That's going to be Barrios to the outside. Barrios has to give up the ghost, though, before they come down into Nürburgring. As we've said before, that chicane, really a one-lane street. You can't get a whole lot of a move going into there, as now they're going to filter their way through 180, and that is going to be them sorted out for now. We haven't really seen any passes here on the back half of this circuit. Pretty much everything we've seen coming on the first half, and particularly down into that Adelaide hairpin. I think later on in the race, we'll start to see a little bit more aggression out of these drivers, maybe trying to throw a move down here into Imola or something of that nature. But as of right now, at least in the top 5, things relatively clean and orderly, and nobody getting too crazy and out of the way.
And up to 8 laps to go, I think this is still going to be the patience game. Seeing who cracks first. We already know San Diego's led more laps, so likely will be the first one to come in amongst this group. But still, it's another few minutes, usually. Around 10 minutes or so, I think, maybe even a couple minutes after that. I wouldn't be surprised if the leaders come in amongst this top 3. Dam, I think he just came in too, coming from 4th spot after he broke the toe of Chase.
Yes, indeed, he did. He brings the car down into pit lane here. As there on your screen is the 774 of Ian Cabana, who's locked into a little bit of a battle. That is Brian Cebulski and Gerard Farewell. Aaron Law behind them as well. Outside of Dam, by the way, Kelly Greenhoe also coming down into pit lane. He is one that is known for taking the pit lane a little bit early. So a bit surprising to see Kelly choosing to break this race up in the middle of it. As there we see some side-by-side. Cabana getting passed by Farewell. Oh, and he gets all kind of out of line. Aaron Law recognizes an opportunity, chucks the green car down to the inside, and makes that move stick.
It would make it work, absolutely. That's the difficult part, though. When it comes to the time of the pit stops, I think that's a factor here, too. If you come out alone side by side in the midst of a battle, that kind of takes away the advantage, or any chances of an advantage, per se, of an undercut call, or trying to find some clean pockets. It's going to be intriguing how the 65 plays out with this now. Farewell, remember, the first driver out of the drivers who have pit so far, holding on in front of Dam, but it is tight now amongst them.
Yeah, it certainly is very tight, and this is going to be the part of the race where I think we start to see some of the gloves begin to work their way off a little bit with just under 14 minutes remaining, especially these drivers that have come down into pit lane. As we've got a car off, that's Jonathan Dam. I think there may have been a little bit of contact there, Justin.
Oh, there definitely appeared to be a little bit of a bump to the back end of some of those logos. Damn. Absolutely having a mistake in the braking zone, similar to what we've seen, I think, when it came to the Williams incident. Very lucky to not get any damage, it looks like, in the car.
Yeah, very lucky indeed. No damage there, just a little bit of a bruised ego and a loss of position, I think, for those drivers. By the way, your leaders staying out here another lap. That was a little bit of a look there from Brett Karakov behind Ian Cabana, trying to see if he could make a little bit of a move. I think there may have just been a signal from Ian Cabana saying he's going to be coming down into pit lane. Patrick Farrell is into the lane right now. Let's wait and see as they come down into Lassay. Whoa, Cabana almost getting things wrong there as they went down into the corner, as there they go, and it does look like here Cabana and Karakov both coming down into pit lane.
I didn't like that entry per se from Cabana, though, because he had someone on his back bumper, had to take the limiter. Look at this, though. Here comes the chance from the popcorn seat.
Yes, it does. That was Mariano Barrios able to get the move done. Justin Adakonis looked like he got things a little bit wrong coming out of Adelaide. Maybe just got onto the throttle a little bit too early, but he is looking very aggressive to try to make up for it as they work their way through Nürburgring right now. He really clobbered the curbs there. I think we may be seeing a little bit of red mist descending there out of Adakonis. He's down 2 positions, and he looks like he's scrambling a little bit to try to get those positions back.
Yeah, if anything, I think it's some of the drivers picking up their aggression more so than anything. We've seen that from San Diego. We've seen a bit of that now with the 17 Barrios. These drivers know they're about to duck down. Some of the pit stop times coming down to 7 seconds now because they've been able to stretch the tanks. 6 estimated laps to go. They know it's go time. They know they need to keep up with that car 88. Once they get to the lane, to be able to time it up. If San Diego runs away in those pit stops, DJ, it might be very difficult to catch them.
Yeah, I have to think that if they lose touch with this draft, that could be all she wrote here for these drivers, but it looks like all 3 of your leaders going to stay out at this point. But Barrios has got to be careful. That gap, to your point, Justin, growing up to about 9/10 of a second. That's getting close to being outside of draft range. Well, behind them, Michael Chase, Michael Lordy, both coming down into pit lane, waiting to see if the next driver on track, Kwok Nin, will choose to come on in. Doesn't look like he will, as we continue to watch the battle between Adakonis and Barrios here. Adakonis just trying to fight back, maybe gain back into that second place position.
The tough thing is, though, if Adakonis goes for the Sen and doesn't get it clear quickly, they lose the touch to San Diego. Not a surprise, just staying tucked up behind the line this time. Because if they go in side by side yet again in that section, going up through Adelaide, they may let San Diego run away. So you need to be smart now with this before a stop like this. You need to know, if you make the move, are you going to finish it without a massive time loss?
Yeah, exactly. If you are going to make the pass, you need to make the pass in a high percentage way. You can't be throwing off any time there by losing any of that whatsoever. But I've got to imagine here at this point that we probably will be seeing these drivers come down into pit lane with 10 minutes to go. I think this should be the relative end of the pit stops, and it looks like the chief strategy here, the prevailing strategy, is staying out as long as possible. Seems to be the way to go here on these GR86 machines as we watch them work their way now through Chateau d'Eau. A little bit of lap traffic up in front of Kevin San Diego. That's William Sullivan, who had a very long pit stop, about 36 seconds worth. And now they get onto the binders here once again, going down.
Sullivan's looped it.
Oh, and gets out of the way. Thank goodness. That could have been disastrous, but all 3 leaders able to get out of the way, and all 3 leaders come on into pit lane.
This could have been very bad. Sullivan, who already had a black flag after the pit stop, if he loops it and then parks it on that line, likely spins it around. Smart move there to burp the gas, make sure he's out of the way of the leaders, don't impede them for the pit stops.
Yeah, very, very smart move indeed. As there we see Barrios actually with the quickest pit stop time. Is he going to get out into the lead? Yes, he is. 7.7 seconds for Barrios. Adakonis at a pit stop of 8 seconds, and San Diego with a pit stop of 9.7. And that has completely flip-flopped your running order.
Not a surprise to see more fuel for San Diego with how many laps he's led. 12 of the 13 completed so far. But a huge, huge break for Barrios to be able to jump ahead that much. A good pit entry. able to get the best pit line delta and pit lane delta. Absolutely huge. Now these two have to be smart themselves. Bump forward, work together, or not.
No, they indeed do not look like they want to be playing nice at all as Ataconis throws a move and throws a block. Contact coming down through Adelaide as they came together. San Diego and Ataconis on the radio at each other here at this point. That was driving a little bit dirty.
That cost him half a second on that one move there. Ataconis going to have to make sure he gets back to the rhythm here, but this is going to be tricky. San Diego, we've seen, is really good when it comes to the middle sector, when he's got clean space. You have to be smart now, though, if you want to be able to try and communicate that over the radio, and not just that in terms of your driving actions. If you feel you're quicker, do it smart, not throw it up the inside off the block.
Yeah, you've got to be smart. You cannot be making contact like that, or that is just going to gift a position to Mariano Barrios. Although Barrios looks like he's had a little bit of a rough second sector here, as that gap has now fallen down to 1.9 seconds. So he has lost a little bit of time, and that's going to be music to the eyes there of Justin Ataconis. Kevin San Diego, though, finds himself behind by about a 1 second here, so he's going to have it all to do for to try to catch back up to this field. Further back down in the field, looks like Michael Lordy's had a little bit of a problem. It's going to find him dropping down the order here, losing positions to Patrick Farrell and Jonathan Dam.
994 indeed, I believe, got loose in the final sector here, making way out of turn 14 towards the chicane, or coming in towards that section 4 set chicane, but for the most part, he's been very quietly holding on around his starting position here today.
Yeah, he's been able to hold on to it here. Lordy only down 1 position. Jonathan Dam, actually the big loser out of any of this. He's down 3 positions from his starting spot, and a lot of that gained by Aaron Law, who's up 4. Your biggest mover there in the top 5. Your biggest mover on the day is Kelly Greenhoe, who is up 7. He currently sits in 13th place, but we keep our eyes focused here right now as Farrell leads over Jonathan Dam and Lordy behind. Not really close enough for any of these drivers to be making an attack. But with 6 minutes left to go, you're going to be pushing as much as possible here. All of these drivers look like they came in on the pit stops and got roughly there or thereabouts 10 seconds worth of fuel, so I don't think we're going to see any fuel saving. Although Lordy getting things wrong there on the exit of Adelaide, kicking up a little bit of dust. I think Lordy is a little bit out of sorts here.
Lordy needs to be able to settle back in, but right now Jonathan Dam really needs to settle on in. He's very lucky to not get damaged at this point, DJ. A couple laps ago we seen damaging the 65. He still has no nose damage despite that. So needs to play this right. It looks like the 19 of Farrell has a slowdown though, and is going to have to let Dam go.
Yeah, picked up a slowdown there, let him go, able to bleed the time in just the right way that he's still going to be able to slot in line ahead of Michael Lordy. But now Lordy is going to be looking to have a little bit of an attack here, at least thought about it, going down into Chateau d'Eau. Not able to play anything out there quite yet as they work their way ahead. By the way, that car that you see up ahead of them, that is Gerard Farewell, who sits about 3 seconds ahead of your leader. And by the way, Kevin San Diego just set the fastest lap of the race. So if you think that 88 is sitting around and waiting here and being content to hold behind Justin Ataconis, you are sorely mistaken. Kevin San Diego back on the charge.
I was just about to say, Ataconis just about got within 1 second into the final corners last time by. And now San Diego yet again. He's seen one mistake in the final sector and is saying, I want to go. He's got good runs off the draft. This is absolutely relentless for San Diego.
More contact and almost a spin there from Kevin San Diego. Justin Ataconis forced off into the gravel barriers outside. These two are not playing nice when it comes down to that Adelaide hairpin. That is the second time in 3 laps that we have seen the two make contact.
And at this point, if you're Barrios, you're thinking in your mind, keep doing it, keep doing it. You can keep on bumping and banging. I'll hold on to this race advantage for the lead. This is exactly what the 17 needs to win this race, coming to 2 estimated to go.
Yeah, very much so. Barrios is just in a happy position to let this battle continue to play out. And as you said earlier, I think if you're Ataconis or Kevin Sandiego, it looks like the two of them have pretty much kind of abandoned hope on winning this race. They're just in the fight here for P2. But we check in on another good battle here. This is Andrew Sharp and Kwok Nin as they work their way through 180 right now, trying to see what they are able to do. Kwok Nin trying to be able to continue a good go through the field. He is up one position on the day.
It's proven to be today, I've noticed, pretty difficult indeed to make up the track position as some may have thought. Greenhole has been the main person picking off drivers one by one. But when it comes to an event like this, right, it's down to rhythm, it's down to momentum. And as we've seen, it's difficult to make a pass if you don't have someone to work with. In a lot of these cases, those who have been set adrift in turn in a lot of these fights, well, they've been able to keep the buffer from the cars behind them, but not been able to close up the buffers in front of them.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't really seen that closing distance unless you really have the benefit of the draft to come back and help you. We just haven't seen the ability to really close down here at this point. As we continue to watch and jumping up through the field here at this point, this is Ataconis and Sandiego as they come through the corner here, trying to see if they're going to be able to get a good run. Sandiego not looking like he had the run that he would have preferred to be able to have, and he's going to have to stay in line here for the next couple of laps.
I don't know if there's going to be enough time to even get up to the leader. Yeah.
That was a big hop of the curb there for Justin Ataconis, absolutely chucking the car into the air. I'm frankly surprised we didn't see that car carrying on two wheels for a longer period of time.
I was about to say, he gained a 10th from that, so it made something up, but the problem is, I don't know if they're going to make up 2 seconds in one lap, because that's the miracle they have to hope for here to really get up to Barrios to realistically set up a pass.
Yeah, I think they have to hope that Barrios makes some sort of a mistake here, some sort of folly that'll send him around, and that is going to be the only way they are going to find themselves moving up through the order. As we watch right now, coming in the run here to Lassay, let's see if Kevin Sandiego, who we ride on board with, is going to have anything. The Dark Horse Esports driver pushes his way through, tries to find a little bit of something. He's now the one being aggressive with the curbs. Big snap of oversteer, and he holds it together.
Down to the final minute or so on that clock, though, as they pass by Barney. We'll have to see how this plays out here with the clock reaching its final minute.
Reaching its final minute, Sandiego trying to be able to get in the move here, but I don't think he's got the run he would have preferred through Estoril, as indeed Ataconis is going to hold on to about an 0.8 of a second advantage as they stretch their way down the straightaway. This isn't close enough for Sandiego.
It's not close enough for Ataconis either. He's gaining a little bit for the braking zone. He's been really quick in some of these corners when he's been able to focus on the lineup itself and not on the defense. But the problem is, if it wasn't for some of the battling, I will say, DJ, this might have been much closer than I think some of San Diego in particular realizes.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. There's no question about it. If they had maybe worked together a little bit, not fought with each other nearly as much, we could be looking at a still three-way battle for the lead of the race, but they've unfortunately just let it slip away. Credit, though, to Ataconis. The gap has come down to under a second as they work their way through 180 right now, but I don't think that's going to be enough to be able to close down on Mariano Barrios here as they now fly their way towards the Imola chicane. Only a couple of corners here to go for the 17.
At this point, Ataconis needs to hope for a mistake. He needs to essentially throw this car in and hope it sticks. Much deeper on the brakes. San Diego much deeper than him on the brakes. Is there going to be a mistake for this to open up the door?
Well, that's all they can hope for here at this point, trying to push their way down now into the final corners. It's a 0.7 of a second advantage for Barrios. He's going to be a little bit off the apex. That's a little bit of a mistake, but it's not nearly enough through Lassay to be able to make anything work. And Mariano Barrios will take victory up 2 positions on the day. Then it's Justin Ataconis and Kevin Sandiego to round out your podium.
What did I say about the popcorn seat, right? Wait for the chance to strike when things get a little too hot in front, and in turn, pop your way up to the top spot, able to take advantage in a prime opportunity.
Well, Justin, when you're right, and you were most certainly right. We've got another little battle here on our hands, though, as drivers work their way through. Andrew Sharp and Rob Campbell. Looks like Sharp's going to be able to hold on to that for the time being as they cross over the finish line and take the checkered flag from Barney the Flagman. That is going to be Andrew Sharp and Rob Campbell there, able to do it. Kwok Nin will come home in P12 as we wait for the rest of the field here to finish up.
I think Michael Chase just about ran out of fuel. In fact, a couple drivers are running out of gas across the course, you see, just after the finish line. Some of these drivers very lucky to make the checkered.
Very lucky indeed to make the checkered. Here's one of our final battles. This is Baron Glover holding off an attack from Kevin Bergquist as they come out of the corner, and that is going to be Glover able to hold on to P20, Bergquist in 21st, waiting for 3 more drivers to finish here. Only one driver categorized as a lap down. That is William Sullivan, who, remember, we saw suffered that penalty and subsequently get lapped a little bit later on. This on your screen right now, I believe, is Malcolm Foster coming down into Lassay, as he will be one of these final drivers to cross over. Foster in the number 11 machine. A little bit of a cautious line there coming through Lassay, but he'll make it work, and he will cross over to finish in 23rd.
Decent drive for him, picked up damage in the early going, but in the end, again, those who kept the cleanest lines, the most consistent lines, the most out of trouble sequences, were able to come up on top today.
Yes, they were, and that is going to bring us to our final finishing order here from Magny-Cours. It is going to be Mariano Barrios taking victory over Justin Ataconis, Kevin Sandiego rounding out your podium positions. Then it was Aaron Law and Michael Chase in the top 5, Gerard Farewell and Patrick Farrell in P7. Jonathan Dam came home 8th, followed by Michael Lordy and Andrew Sharp behind them. In P11, it was Rob Campbell who held off an attack from earlier on in the race. Kwok Nin able to hold off Kelly Greenhow, with Richard Swindellis and Ian Cabana rounding out your top 15. It was Brett Karakoff and Andrew Venaro, Mark File, Brian Saboleski, and Baron Glover in the top 20. 21st was Kevin Bergquist, followed by Matthew Wegenar. Then it was Malcolm Foster, Josh Kimball, William Sullivan, the last of your finishers. Butler, Hellowell, Williams, and Parsons unable to see the checkered flag here today. And that's going to go ahead and move us right on into our interview with our winner, Mariano Barrios. And Mariano, talk about patience paying off for you. You sat behind the 2 in the first part of the race, and then you were absolutely able to pounce and take victory.
Yeah, I mean, that was just, I saw they were saving gas up front, and I thought that my best option was going to be pass them in the pits and hope I could hold them off for the last few laps.
Well, talk to me about that pit stop. I mean, you did 2 seconds rather, shorter than Kevin Sandiego. How did you pull that off without giving too many secrets away?
Well, honestly, it was a good amount of lift and coast, and then a lot of hoping that I didn't underfuel the car at the end.
Well, you certainly didn't underfuel it, and you got to the end. How much did you have when you came across the line?
When I got out of the car, I had 0.06 gallons left.
I love it. That's exactly the way you want to do it. Fantastic, my friend. Although looking ahead, we head off to Laguna Seca next time out. Another tight and twisting technical circuit. How do you think you're going to fare?
It's a tough track. It's never been one of my strongest tracks, but it's always a fun time, especially the corkscrew, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we're looking forward to it as well, Mariano. And as for tonight, anybody you'd like to thank for the victory?
Well, definitely my wife, who's in the other room right now watching. She was on the edge of her seat the whole time, so big shout out to her.
All right, well, thank you so much. That was Mariano Barrios, your victor from here tonight, as you called it, Justin, sitting in that popcorn position. You heard him say it. Just try to save a little bit of fuel and jump in the pit stops, and that appeared to be the way to get by.
Exactly. He played this very smartly when it came to how to set this up. It really helped, though, I think, too, with the battle between Ataconis and Sandiego, because one side by side, they were able to recover about the time back within half a lap from the first time after the pit stops. The second time, though, I think was where it really fell off, because if they stayed lined up without that attempt one more time, we might have been talking about side by side going in through turn 5 of the final lap. Instead, it's Barrios able to take advantage, and Ataconis has to settle for second.
Yes, he does, and that's certainly going to change things around. But as we said, next time out, we head to Laguna Seca, and that one is going to be pretty fantastic to see, I have to imagine. Probably not all that many overtaking opportunities necessarily there, but some good chances for, well, keeping everything together and not making a mistake, Justin.
You say that, but when it comes to that racetrack, there have been several times where the corkscrew has caught people off guard. Surprisingly, I've also seen plenty of trouble spots out of the final corner, and especially for those coming out of the pit lane. So it should be a challenging one for these drivers because of the amount of elevation changes, especially when it comes to that corkscrew.
Yeah, it'll be a good one to see for sure, and we will be back for that this same time next week. But fear not, everybody. We are not done with the racing action here today because we head to the World Center of Racing in Daytona, Florida to get ready to go for the GT4 Sprint Series here tonight. The GT4 Fixed Series, rather, here tonight. Going to be some absolutely incredible action. And as always, as opposed to the previous series, Justin, we've got multiple different makes and models of cars to really change things up. And this is going to be one where we are going to see plenty of passing. The draft going to be in massive, massive effect here tonight.
Very much a draft circuit on hand for these competitors. Teamwork going to be critical. Being smart when it comes to your respective moves, especially down the front straightaway, going to be critical. But especially, that goes a little bit under the radar at times, that run for the infield is so important. The run through the horseshoes in particular to set up a chance to be able to maintain the draft. So many variables to think about today.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's going to be a lot of variables as we take a look at the schedule here for this GT4 fixed series. We head to Magny-Cours next time out, then Matt Panorama, Fuji, Brands Hatch, Tsukuba, Sebring, Nürburgring, the GP layout, and then ending the season at Road America. And looking at that schedule, Justin, it's really a who's who in terms of famous racetracks around the world.
We just seen what happened with Magny-Cours for the last race on the card here tonight. Very fun, to say the very least. I think some of these drivers will say for the GT4s next week. But it's a very Grand Prix heavy set schedule for the middle portion of the calendar. I think, though, getting a smart run at Daytona is going to be critical. You do not want to have to bank on points if you make mistakes in the later stages of the season.
Have to agree with that. As we also have a championship here. Let's go ahead and check that out. And it is Simon Thoreau leading the way right now with 35 points. Brockway behind him, then Michael Diaz. Vincent Trepanier is in fourth, followed by RaceSpotTV. Then it is Botafour, Vigo, Bonilla, Suarez, and Francis Castillo Romero. Some of the familiar names there, but a lot of new faces here in the series, and a lot of new drivers out on the track right now as well. We also do have a teams championship, so let's go ahead and run you through that as well here today. And Precision Racing Esports up at the top of the charts. Unit Sim Sports Alpha in second place, only 3 points behind them, and tied with YS Motorsports Black. Then it's YS Motorsports Gold, ASR by Abel, Alpine Stars Geodesic, Delta Sport, Race Factory, Precision Racing Esports 112, and Can-Am Racing to round out your championship there for that. And good news for everybody is practice has just come to a conclusion here at Daytona, but that means it is time for the racing action to start, and more particularly the qualifying action to start. Again, 4 laps, solo qualifying, so like last time, you're not going to get the benefit of the draft.
Exactly, and a smart play too tonight to be able to make sure it's down to raw driver skill. Tire tempo and tire temperatures, very critical as talked about when it comes to the last race. That carries over in turn for the GT4s tonight to make sure they are up the tip. Same estimated window for that exact top time. Again, you do not want to end up being one of those drivers who spins it around during qualifying and loses that chance to be able to start up at the front, because the more further back you go, the more difficult it is to have a shot at the leaders.
Yeah, very much so, and I think what's going to be especially critical here for these drivers is just keeping up that maximum speed all the way around the circuit. Remember, if you make an error coming out of the bus stop, it's not only going to be, the Le Mans bus stop, I should say, it's not only going to be that lap, that is affected because of the nature of this circuit and the long run down to the start-finish line. It's also going to affect your next lap. So if you make an error in that one corner, you're going to be losing 2 of your 4 laps. And with lap times ticking in here at just about under 2 minutes time, that's not a lot of time to try to get 4 laps in.
I agree, especially since when it comes to the top times in practice, they're about 2 minutes in themselves. So think of it this way. You have essentially the time left to have to say, you have to go right at about the start of the session. If you haven't gone already, there is a chance you're likely only getting 3 laps in DJ. That's how tight the margins are right now for this qualifying, from the pit lane out to the track before you start your first lap.
Yeah, very tight margins as we take a look there at the 212 machine working their way through in the Mercedes. As we said, we do have 4 makes and models of cars here today. The Aston Martin, the Mercedes, the McLaren, and the BMW, 5, and the Porsche as well. It looks like pretty good disparity across the entire field here. Everybody relatively evenly spaced out in their car choices, and that undoubtedly is going to be something we talk about over the course of the season with horses for courses for all of them, as they like to say. These cars going to be a little bit better at certain tracks, a little bit worse at other tracks, just depending on the layouts there altogether.
Especially with the discussions on the BOP, which car is going to have the better strengths at which circuits. We've seen and heard a lot, especially some of the drivers say where they feel drivers have the better comfortability in general, and also the more raw pace in certain circuits compared to the others. I think today, though, is going to be the question, though, especially if we see how things play on in qualifying. Is there going to be a breakaway, or is there going to be that fair balance of parity we've seen a lot of this year?
Well, last season, I can tell you, we saw a great amount of parity here in the GT4 series. I expect to see much of the same. 3 minutes down in qualifying as we watch J.R. Williams right now in that 213 machine, bringing the car up onto the high banks. This is going to be action central when we get to race time in terms of timing your draft, getting the passes right, potentially going down into the bus stop or down into turn 1. But it is going to be a little bit quiet, I think, in solo qualifying. Drivers here a little bit lonely as they work their way through this mighty circuit.
And the major thing to consider, too, is this is almost a bit of a warm-up when you consider it, DJ, for the special events coming up, like the Roar 24 and the virtual iRacing 24 Hours of Daytona coming up in the next few weeks on special event schedule. So track time is track time, right? Get yourself some track time in your league.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I think for a lot of these drivers, they are going to be hoping to be able to use a little bit of this track time to be able to go ahead, as we now have some time starting to fly their way up onto the board here. At this point, it is going to be Bodefert leading the way. Justin Ream, second place, looking like those McLarens continue to be pretty good in a straight line. That's Mikel Vigo and Simon Thoreau, followed by Adam Brockway in 5th. J.R. Williams looks like he was able to come home in 19th on his first run. Looks like Nicholas Belmont and Michael Diaz in 6th and 7th, respectively, as more and more times continue to come onto the charts. Here's Abner Acosta, driver that we had obviously talked so many times about on the NASCAR side of things, but getting back to his roots, as it were, and doing a little bit of road racing.
And that's something to consider, where this is more so his specialty on the platform when you look at his overall history on the service. But remember, the Cup side, or more so the stock car side, really didn't come together until last year, if not the later stages of 2020, when it comes to the organizations he worked with. So Acosta, in many cases, could very much be in a great spot here to do some strong runs here throughout the whole season, I think. If he can start up well, because he showcased in the past he can be fast. He showcased the confidence the drivers, even in PRL, have for him to be part of the esports organization now.
Yeah, very much so. We'll have to see what he is able to do, though, as Acosta does bring that car out of the corner right now. Coming back onto the high banking, this is Matthew Wyckoff, who is yet to set a time in the number 144, the Mercedes, with that big guttural way of talking as they continue to work their way through. The Valhalla Esports driver bringing the car now down into the area. Let's see what he is able to do. Wyckoff going to be able to put a time on the board, only good enough for 34th fastest. Here's one of the BMW drivers, though, Mike Stevenson, bringing his BMW around the number 45, getting ready to cross over the line and take a time.
Stevenson seems to have it decently wound up right now. Might have enough time for one more full lap. That's about all. But that's not great. Dead last on the board so far.
Yeah, dead last on the board. He's certainly going to have to work his way back forward. Jeffrey Seebach here now is really good times here for the Porsche in the number 19, trying to see what he is able to get going. Waiting to see here, Miguel Vigo currently in third place right now, only about 28 thousandths of a second off of Justin Ream. A very close gap, a very close gap up at the front of the field.
I mean, when it comes to Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing over the years, is this a shock to see how quick they are? No, it absolutely isn't, because we've seen Bedford, who we've seen more so on the open wheel side in the past. Arjuna very much knows him well on his speed. And we also know for sure Miguel Vigo, when it comes to these types of cars, when it comes to the sports cars, when it comes to this type of racing, is one of the best drivers you can select to be in the league scene, to be able to win for a championship.
Yeah, very much so. This is one of the power teams here on iRacing for sure. And Vigo very much one of those drivers, along with his teammate Justin Ream, that very much carries the banner and carries it quite well. Vigo crossing over the line. Let's see if we can see an improvement here for the 62. That is an improvement, able to get the gap down to 25 thousandths of a second with a 52.978. Justin Ream unable to improve, as here is now Abner Acosta working his way through Le Mans. Let's see if he's able to improve from a 5th place position. The Argentinian looked good through Sector 1 and looked good through Sector 4 and 5 on the last lap. So if the Precision Esports driver is able to get anything here, now is the time, because I don't think he's going to have time for another one.
Looking at towards the miles per hour, a little bit quicker than what we've seen previously in that same section for comparison to Stevenson. He's wound this up really well. And as you can tell, knows the exact limitation of the track. Know the bottom of the apron can bump you right to the top.
Right to the top, but right into third goes Abner Acosta. A good lap there, and that means Vigo is now going to be 7 thousandths of a second off of third place. Very tight margins there, and I've got to imagine those are going to stay tight for the remainder of the session. It does look like Vigo and Adam Brockway in 5th have both opted to come down into pit lane, calling their laps off. John Bodefer doing the same thing. Here is Vincent Trepanier in P7 right now, trying to see if he's going to be able to make a little bit of an improvement here. I saw an improvement for him through Sector 2. Let's see if he's able to get some speed here going down into Le Mans. Takes a good amount of the grass there, but that's all within bounds. This is the crucial part, maximizing the speed on corner exit as he now gets onto the high banking here with about 30 seconds left to go. He should be able to cross the line with just enough time.
Already seen some of the jump up for a few drivers, up by 3/4 tenths down on this 3rd lap and towards the 4th lap. I think Trepanier's got a decent amount of run. Nearly got it. We'll see if he's going to be able to actually bump at the margin. Look at this.
Down to the apron as he goes, and it looks like that's not going to be an improvement. Justin Ream, though, the next one to cross the line, he's not going to improve as well. He will stay in second. Here is Aiden Young right now. Young's going to try to cross over, but he doesn't have enough time to do it, and that indeed means that we will be ready to go back to the race here, and let's go ahead and run you through the starting order here today. John Bodefer lines up in pole position, followed by Justin Ream with Abner Acosta and Miguel Vigo in P4. Adam Brockway 5th, followed by Nicholas Belmont in 6th. Then it's Vincent Trepanier, followed by Simon Thoreau, and then Michael Diaz and Alex Bergstrom. Nicholas Rasputo will be in P11, followed by Keith Bonilla in 12th. Then it'll be Arnaud Genet and Jose Lockwood in 14th. Carlos Vila will be 15th, followed by Alessandro Torchio in 16th, Chris Hudson 17th, and Tommy Brisson in 18th place. 19th is Aiden Young with Patrick Bachelard to his outside, David Van Roy and Fernando Yaquez in the row behind them. Then it's Marlon McMullen and Kevin Ayers to round out your top 24. 25th will be Marc-Andre Desjardins, followed by Alex May, with Ronnie Suarez and Frankie Arvello in 28th. 29th will be Tony Costello, and J.R. Williams will be P30. Then it's Drew Lidke and Andrew Lau, followed by Joe Pegrio and J.S. Marshall. Eric Ronenberg will be 35th, with Darren Rutherford to his outside in 36th. Keaton Marcheski will be in 37th, with Philip Mannion in 38th. Matthew Wyckoff lines up 39th, followed by Brian Hoskins, Bradley Beamon, and Mike Stevenson in 42nd. 43rd will be Jeffrey Seabach, Brian Vorse in 44th. Curlin Andrew and Corey Clark round out your truly massive 46-car field. Justin, I love seeing this many drivers out on the track, and it's going to make for what is sure to be a fantastic 40 minutes of racing.
Should be. It's going to be important to make sure you stay out of the impending doom that usually happens in the horseshoe to start off today, and even more so, these drivers up towards the head of the pack today have to make sure they nail things together, set the rhythm right to be able to keep up amongst that lead pack, because as we both know, you make a mistake in the early laps, even a small one, could be the difference between you being a part of a group of 10 cars or being the head of a small train in a few minutes.
Yeah, you know, this isn't nearly a circuit that has as many as areas to run off wide and to have those problems as Magny-Cours was, but this is most certainly a circuit where if you make those mistakes, it's going to punish you massively. And so right now, as we watch this front row of McLarens, it does look like McLaren has the upper hand here, but that may just be being in the hands of Justin Ream and John Bodefer. We will have to do a little bit of investigation later on, I guess, to figure out if that is the case. But as of right now, they work their way down this long, high-banked straightaway. Well, turn. It's technically a turn, but it acts as a straightaway as you are flat out here and begin to line up, getting ready. And the iRacing Porsche pace car should be pulling off down into pit lane here in just a few moments' time. There it goes, giving control of the field over to John Bodefer as we wait for the green flag. And there goes the green. We are racing in Daytona. It looks like a little bit of a jumbled up start here, although Bodefer able to get a good lead. Justin Ream trying to close in behind him. It's 3, almost 4 wide coming down into turn 1. Who's going to be able to make this work? That looks to be Belmont there trying to go around the outside, but that's not going to play anything out. We're single file for about the first 7, but the rest of the field is an absolute gaggle.
Yeah, lots of 2. Some drivers thinking 3 wide right now. No major collisions quite yet. Some good patience being shown outside of that one driver around the 40s getting loose in the grass. So these drivers taking it smart, taking it precise. We've had a crash in the heart of the pack, though.
We have indeed, and that looks to be maybe David Van Roy, I think one of the drivers that has fallen down through the order here at this point. But up the front of the field, we still have some more 2 wide going down into the Western Horseshoe as everyone just tries to sort themselves out, tries to be able to figure out the way to go. And here we come, Justin, for the first time up onto the high banking, and the draft comes into play.
Good first sectors for Belmont to be able to jump up those 2 spots to the opening going. But right now, you see Bodefer just able to nail things up right. Talked about his skills when it comes to this racetrack, when it comes to this type of racing. The road courses, the difficult thing's going to be actually breaking away with how aggressively strong this toe's going to be down the front straightaway today.
Yeah, you've got to just try to do everything you can during those tricky infield sections to keep yourself ahead as much as possible. As we see a couple of dives coming down here, a big, almost 3 wide going down into Le Mans. I don't see any calamity firing off here, so credit where credit is due to the Precision Racing League drivers for being able to keep everything together as they exit out of Le Mans, and we now look out the back here of John Bodefer as Justin Ream starts to close down on him.
And this is the exact situation Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing wants to see. 1, 2, 3 amongst their Technical Alliance cars to control the pack. Belmont, though, has other plans.
Belmont has other plans. He's going to force that Mercedes around the outside, tries to make it work in the number 40. He's probably going to get one position there over Miguel Vigo. Yes, he is. He's going to try for two to get that position away from Justin Ream. That's not going to work, but here comes Brockway now thinking around the outside of the International Horseshoe. He's going to try to push that car as best as he can. Everything's swapping around here at this point. They're still side by side between Vigo and Brockway, as we've got a big tangle farther back in the field. I think Lidke and Ayers involved in that, maybe Marshall as well.
Absolute parking lot for a moment with Tommy Brisson getting turned around from offset 3 wide. But the YS Motorsports cars looking to send things. Speaking of being sent,
that's the 134 machine way off and into the grass there. That is Tommy Brisson that you see having that problem as there was a big calamity there on the second lap. But now in the first lap here, is Ronnie Suarez the latest to find the barriers? It's just a bunch of BMWs getting it all wrong and finding themselves on the outside.
Some of these BMWs are absolutely taking a beating in the heart of the pack so far, and I think it's pretty clear based in part how you've seen things up towards the front. You want to be up towards, say, the McLarens. You want to be up towards, say, the Mercedes AMGs today. Just the lone BMW amongst that main pack, essentially, so far, within the top 13 or so.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly look like they have the best run of things here today, but Brockway still making things work to the best of his ability. There we see, is that a little bit of a bump draft potentially between the two Mercedes of Vigo and Belmont? I think it very well could be, trying to get a little bit of a push here coming down towards the start-finish line. Definitely getting a little bit of a bump. We've seen Belmont be aggressive around the outside. Now it's going to be Brockway that tries to go around the outside. Belmont gets a little bit bottled up coming down into turn 1. They all try to fan themselves out and sort themselves around, and look at that Aston Martin of Abner Acosta trying to make some moves.
Trying to make it work on the right side of the track. Trepanier also making some slices and dices, but Brockway is picking the right lines at some of the right times here. To be able to try and make some moves, just has to make sure to fully get clear. I believe he's leapfrogged another car. Yes, Vigo.
Yes, he has. He's been able to get his way up ahead. Acosta now holding on to the back. We keep our eyes right now on Vigo, who sits in that 5th place position with the big trail of cars out in front. Looked like Justin Ream took a little bit of a half-hearted look down to the inside, as here comes a real bottleneck coming up behind, as Vigo looks like he loses time there through the Western Horseshoe, and that opens up a little bit of a door to Abner Acosta. That in turn presents a real accordion back through the field here at this point, and that's Risaputo and Thoreau almost going too wide. Now up ahead of them, that's Trepanier, the highest ranked Porsche, trying to get a little bit of a look up ahead. Everything firing off.
Firing off and then some when it comes to this respective pack right now. The top 16 all within a line of about 5 seconds separation right now. But the major thing now, you can't afford to make the run time into the passes. We've seen a couple attempts in the opening laps, DJ, through the bus stop, for example. That's caused part of the buffer we've already seen here. So now, these drivers know, wait for the front straightaway, wait for the chance to open up, wait for the chance for the setup, in some cases, for the next horseshoe.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen plenty of drivers be very, very patient as they've come around, and that is certainly going to be, I think, what has to exist here for all of these drivers right now, is just wait on that patience, wait it out, wait it out, wait it out. Belmont here, the one who seemed most aggressive up farther in the field. He's getting a good tow behind Justin Ream right now, as it looks like the two teammates of Bodefer and Ream maybe trying to block things up a little bit, but here comes Abner Acosta with a big move around the outside. Is that going to play out? Acosta's going to get forced out a little bit wider. Now Brockway's going to be the one challenging for him. Acosta now tries to be able to sort his way up ahead, trying to see what they are able to do, as now Acosta and Brockway are going to be side by side through the International Horseshoe, and there's still nothing between them.
Brockway able to clear on by. Again, Brockway's just saying, check up, I'm going to take advantage of said checkups. Just timing things up right, just looking for the opening of the gaps, waiting for the seas to part per se along the top groove, and be able to make that pass along, knowing how hard some of these drivers are not only checking up for each other, but in some cases potentially saving.
Yeah, that's a big thing in this race in particular. Fuel saving can be absolutely massive around here, and I had to have thought that the Geodesic Alpine Stars drivers would be hoping to do a good amount of fuel saving up at the front of the field, but I think this attack here from Nicholas Belmont is really and truly starting to scupper them a little bit. They're not exactly having the chance to do nearly as much fuel saving as they would want, as they're having to run these cars a little bit harder. Ream with a little bit of a half-hearted look to the inside. That's not going to play as the top 5 remain single file coming down into Le Mans. And now here comes the big tension moment. Who's going to get the good run out of Le Mans? Who's going to be able to get the good charge? It looks like Belmont looks pretty good, but Ream also going to be able to get the draft off his teammate in front of him.
And when it comes to the communication, you have to think about once again, when you have bump drafts like we're seeing for the Alpine Stars Geodesic cars, it's not a surprise. The bump drafting really helps assist the fuel save for the driver who gives the bump in turn. The problem is, it's also fairly slower by at least 7 miles an hour compared to Brockway's slingshot to the outside.
Oh, not able to make it work. A little bit of bumping and banging there in the mid-pack right now, though, as it looks like Belmont and Vigo may have had a little bit of contact, as well as Ream getting involved in that. But Brockway with an absolutely stellar move coming around the outside, and they push themselves ahead right now. We focus in on Justin Ream as he tries to be able to hold a little bit of a wiggle there from the Mercedes of Miguel Vigo, but he's going to be able to hold in line in front of Belmont for right now.
I think based on what we're already seeing with the double toe, even the triple, the quadruple toe in a couple of these cases right now, going to be absolutely big, these respective runs. There is a bit of a gap starting to open up for some of the spots I've noticed here amongst the top spots because of some of the side-by-side. But now, the major thing, amongst some of these drivers, they're waiting in the popcorn seat. Some of them are saying, I want to be able to have a chance to have that popcorn. Let me go.
Yeah, we're really seeing a good back and forth here among the differing strategies. We're also going to give a little bit of love farther back down in the field. This is Raisaputo right now trying to make a move on Thoreau. Up ahead of him, those 2 Mercedes, and then Vincent Trepanier again in that highest placed Porsche as they now work their way into Le Mans. This could be another flashpoint of a battle as they run very, very close to one another. And indeed, really the top 13 here at this point running in a very, very narrow line. It's not back until Alessandro Torchio that we see any kind of semi-substantial gap. We now ride on board with Chris Hudson, who rides a little bit farther back down in the field as he pulls his way along, and you can see just how the strange mix here of concentration and relaxation that is needed to be able to pilot these cars around these high banks.
First, we see Chris Hudson along on the stock cars as well. First was experience here at Daytona, but you can just see, just with how he's even opening them out there, looking at the eyeballs opening up, saying, okay, what's happening here? Is this going to be a chance to make a pass? Are we going to lose touch with the cars in front a little bit here? What am I going to do? Just couldn't take it anywhere. He thought he had a chance if they fought too hard there.
Yeah, he thought he had a chance, and now he's got to do a little bit of defense here as their drivers trying to poke their way up to the inside of Hudson, but he's going to be able to hold that at bay for now as this battle looks like it's going to keep itself relatively calm. They bring their way through the kink right now. The Mercedes behind Chris Hudson trying to see what they are able to do, trying to see if there's going to be anything. That's Fernando Yaquez behind him. Patrick Bachelard also close as they work their way out of the Western Horseshoe. Coming down now into turn 7 and 8, the very, very tricky corner as the grip actually does change here a little bit, going from the infield out into the oval section, and it can really throw you off. But there you see everybody keeping in a relatively straight and file line here. We jump back up to the front of the field as it looks like Bodefer maybe has enough time of waiting around here. Is he going to try to have a little bit of a move on Adam Brockway into Le Mans? No, he's going to keep it together, but he's going to try to push himself ahead.
Yeah, why not just allow the driver in front to be able to help you save fuel? Remember, it was essentially better for burning more gas to help Justin Ream out more than anything else. And that's the cat and mouse of it. That's the chess match of it all. If you can save gas, save it. If you feel like you're quicker, why not? But be in a spot where you can work with somebody if it comes down to it, to work with your fuel mileage. You see, Betafer knows he would have to go side by side aggressively to the outside. Why not just lift? Why not just let him send it into the corner, burn up more gas?
Why not indeed? I think that's a good call there from him to be able to back off a little bit and definitely do that. But look at this train again, all the way back down into 13th place. That is just how long that this train stretches. We see a couple of drivers there in the back, Carlos Villa and Alec Bergstrom, maybe trying to go a little bit side by side. There they are on your screen. That is Villa in there in the blue, and down to the inside, that white and yellow machine and the BMW trying to force their way along. This is Keith Bonilla that we now keep an eye on in 11th place. Michael Diaz, one of the familiar suspects from the previous season, up in front of him, as this draft is just keeping everybody so incredibly close, Justin.
It's been very nicely tight. And I think partly that is, again, with the fixed setup, it's not per se the major as big differences per se you may see in an open setup race, where you have those dynamics of differences that in turn start to splinter things out in about, say, 10 minutes time. These drivers are a little bit more on top of each other pace lines. Even when you look at the times being put up by some of the drivers, the fastest lap out of this whole pack was in 15th spot. The drivers are all within 3/4 of a second pace-wise.
Yeah, they certainly are. Everybody running very, very close to one another. And now that big train stretching all the way back to about 17th place is a little bit of a bump draft there from John Bodefer, trying to take place a little bit, trying to see what he's able to get. Let's see if he decides to try to take a move to the outside here. Remember that YS Simsport driver in front of him in the form of Adam Brockway, not a teammate, as opposed to the 2, 3, 4 for Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing that line up behind them. We'll have to see as they work their way down into the corner right now. Looking to the inside a little bit. Looking. Not going to have anything play itself out, and they'll continue to go single file down towards the International Horseshoe.
Just even see the difference of the lines and the confidence in some of these drivers in terms of their grip. They're just waiting to see for the pit stops right now. I've noticed this, that red car for Delta Sport's been really trying to be aggressive for Race Puto. Some of the others in turn getting shuffled because of that. We're already looking towards that heart of the pack. Michael Diaz has dropped all the way back to the 11th position and now is under attack again.
Under attack again as we look farther back down in the field here, trying to see what they are able to get to happen. There's a lot of aggression here, Justin, but there's also a lot of patience that seems to be exhibited. I'm not seeing a lot of massive dive bombs. I'm not seeing a lot of very risky sends here at this point, but of course, as soon as I say that, Diaz, Torchio, and Bergstrom getting very too wide coming up onto the banking.
Yeah, the thing I've noticed when it comes to Villa, he's been fairly aggressive to try and find some of these holes. Villa started a little bit towards the heart of the pack around the teens, up 4 spots right now. And at this point, if you're Villa, you're thinking, I want to be with the rest of my fellow alliance mates. I want to have the chance to put on a dominating team performance. I want to be in that position. For some of these other drivers like Diaz, you have to be starting to think about a bit of panic mode, because we've seen Diaz be so quick so many times in PRL competition. It's just been a bit of a struggle, it seems, to start this day in these first 15 or so minutes.
Yeah, it just seems like he's a little bit off the pace, but I've got to think if you are Diaz, that's not going to hold you back too long, considering the fact that we know he's got the pace. Here he comes down to the inside, trying to see what he's able to get done. Too wide coming down through turn 1.
Could see that coming. He's been very aggressive on the passes. He is also one of those drivers I talked about, like Villa, who's been slicing, dicing, not afraid to throw it side by side almost every single time. He wants a chance to be able to go up towards the front. After all, he's amongst those drivers looking for stellar points after how things played on the opening round.
Yeah, points is going to be a big consideration for these drivers. I would have to imagine they're going to be thinking about that quite a bit, trying to make sure that that is what that they want to hold on to and to be able to carry a good championship performance into the entirety of the season. We keep our eyes on RaceSpotTV now, though. Is he going to have anything to be able to have here? Looks like he's going to be under a little bit of pressure there, it has to be said, from Thoreau behind him. Not sure if that pressure is going to come to anything as they all work their way down to the low line. And that's one of the things here about racing GT cars around Daytona, Justin. Unlike NASCAR, where you can get some momentum up on the high line, really hugging down to that apron is pretty much the fastest and only way to go.
Absolutely right now is how some of these drivers are settling out with the different lines. With 12 estimated laps to go, though, we are starting to potentially reach that point of, do you try and say split this up halfway in some of the cases? Try and get a pocket. Hope you come out with somebody to work with, or rather have somebody to work with after a pit stop. Or in many of these cases, how do you get yourself from 28th in a train 10 seconds back? We've already seen the 312 on screen have troubles today, DJ. Had the track position, lost in the opening laps. And you have to start thinking outside the box in many of these cases to have a shot. Michael Diaz just rolled the dice and throw it out of the box.
I am very surprised by that, to be honest. Jose Lockwood and Alex May also coming down into the pit lane here at this point. But I've got to think, Justin, that you don't want to be pitting with someone, or you don't want to be pitting by yourself, rather. You want to be pitting with someone, because I think losing the draft around here is going to be absolutely detrimental to your cause. If you lose that draft, you're going to find yourself in a world of trouble.
Exactly, and that's also why I mentioned there, you want to be with somebody for that said pit stop. You come out alone, it could be absolutely detrimental when it comes to this facility. Some of the drivers without the draft to notice have been running up to 2 seconds slower a lap. Even that 1 second alone, or 1 lap alone, might be the difference between you being still amongst the lead cars, or maybe being back to, say, 7th, 8th, in a couple cases, maybe out of the top 10.
Yeah, very well could be. I mean, we don't know exactly the number of seconds or the number of tenths of a second you're going to be losing coming out of that draft area and holding on to it. So we will have to see exactly as pit stops continue to fire off here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a few more maybe now start to go on this lap, as Brockway continues to lead over Bodefer. Credit to Justin Ream. That gap was getting upwards of about 0.8 of a second on the previous lap the last time they dove into Le Mans, and he's been able to keep it up now and keep that gap down under about 0.5 of a second, so getting a full effect of the draft. By the way, the biggest effect that those pit stops have had is there's now a big gap between Alessandro Torchio and Aiden Young farther back down in the field. As we watch Brockway and Bodefer here, again, thinking about a little bit of a bump draft potentially coming down the main straightaway. Nobody diving into the pits here out of the top 10. Alex Bergstrom going to be the latest taker, though, farther back in the field.
He'll select and take a bit of the undercut call. We talked about this a lot with the GR86 race. In a lot of cases for drivers, you want the shortest possible pit delta possible. You want to be able to think of fuel as time. And that's also the case for tonight. And that's the case for many, and not so much for those getting involved in that one.
No, not indeed, as things getting very hairy down into the International Horseshoe. It certainly looked like there were a lot of problems there, and many drivers side by side. What we watch right now is Vincent Trepanier able to hold off a move there on Raisaputo, able to get that to go. Now looking around the outside is Alessandro Torchio and the McLaren trying to open up the Western Horseshoe a little bit to see if he can get a run on Raisaputo, but that's not going to play out. It could open up a door here for Carlos Villa. Let's see what exactly goes as we take a look at this replay. And I got to say, that was Raisaputo being a little bit too late on the brakes.
We talked about the aggression. He did go a little bit deeper on the brakes, trying to set up an inside line move before Acosta starting to move down, and that in turn really cost Acosta especially. Very lucky to be able to hold on. Drivers like J.R. Williams, though, not going to be happy to lose the time with him bouncing out their doors.
Yeah, they certainly are. You do not want to find yourself in any sort of incident here at this point, as it really will throw you out for a loop. Now it looks like that the tables have shifted a little bit up at the front of the field as Bodefer finds himself a little bit far back. He and Justin Ream, though, doing a little bit of tandem tag team tactics here. Going to be pushing to the outside on a bump draft is Justin Ream. They're going to be hoping to maybe both clear by Adam Brockway here. Coming down into turn one, Carlos Villa and Chris Hudson both coming down into pit lane, but we've got to keep our eyes focused on this, as there goes Bodefer back into the lead of the race. Is Ream going to be able to make that move stick? It certainly doesn't look like it here at this point, but he's going to keep in it as they fly towards the International Horseshoe.
I was waiting to see when that would happen. Similar to super speedway racing, you tandem draft, you work as a team. In many cases, you do not abandon your teammates. Guess what? It was the matter of when they would try and pull that on Brockway. Now Brockway is going to be the wild card once again in this. Does he try and make a move back? or does he remain a bit patient? He's tended on the aggressive side this race.
He's tended on the aggressive side this race. We'll have to see if he continues to be that aggressive here, as we have officially ticked over the halfway point here in this 40-minute affair. 21 odd minutes down, closing in on 18 minutes left to go. Brockway, the one who made the big move there earlier on, now finding himself in third place. Here is Keith Bonilla farther back down into the field. He's trying to close in a little bit on Torchio right up ahead of him. Risaputo in the red Mercedes splitting the difference, or just up the head from him. Some very close battles, but they do have a big problem in the fact that Simon Thoreau is about 1 second behind Nicholas Belmont. We're hearing a couple of calls coming out over the radio right now. The drivers are going to be headed down into pit lane here shortly.
That coming at 9 estimated to go. Going to be, again, with the pit call seen previously from Veal, you have to think the window is coming up soon here for the lead Alpine Stars Jiu-Jitsu cars, unless he's got in a different script. There it goes.
There they go, all coming down into pit lane. This lead 5, it looks like Vincent Trepanier is going to be left alone out on track, but everyone else able to get the cars slowed down as they roll their way into pit lane right now. It's Trepanier, Bachelard, and McMullen that all appear to be staying out. Everyone else diving on in. A little bit of an awkward pit entry there for one of the cars, as a couple of the cars miss their stalls and have to pull back.
Yeah, Brockway did not want to yield from that outside groove with some of the Alpine Stars Jiu-Jitsu cars hugging the inside. That's going to cost him a little bit of time because he had to essentially slow up. Here they go, and there's the time loss.
There's the time loss. That is a big one, and indeed there Brockway's going to lose out to Simon Thoreau there as well. Bodefer will come back into the lead of the race. Justin Reed, Miguel Vigo, so that Alpine Stars Geodesic 1, 2, 3 looks like it will be put back into order here at this point, but Thoreau finds himself about 1.7 seconds behind. So these three teammates, they're looking to be sitting pretty here.
Sitting pretty in a very strong spot. Remember, this is a team with a lot of experience, so they know, based on set experiences, what the numbers are. I believe Acosta may have wrecked coming out of the pit lane, but for the most part, these drivers settle in. Oh, it was more than that.
Oh, tips around there, and Abner Acosta in the Aston Martin forced to bring the car back around. Yeah, he got a little bit of contact there, it looks like, coming down through into turn 1. Just a little bit of side-by-side connection there, and that's enough to spin Abner around. Let's take another look at this. No, you know what? That is my fault. That is my apologies there to that car to the inside. There was no contact there in between the two. It just looked like Abner ran out of grip around the outside.
It's Kevin Ayers, I believe, but you're right. Just didn't have the grip, and that's the tough part I've noticed all day long today for these drivers, is that outside groove doesn't seem to have as much stick per se for those looking to send it if you're not fully clear of the driver side by side with.
Well, let's not forget the update that iRacing put in on their last update, where it does indeed have a little bit more of a grip factor that comes into it on the normal racing line. The normal racing line rubbers in a little bit more as things were, and so it makes it easier for them to be able to hold on to lines on the traditional racing line, and going offline comes back to bite you just a little bit more. We watch here as your trio of leaders makes their way down into turn 1. Trepanier coming out of the pits right now, waiting to see how his strategy is going to play out. I think he's going to find himself farther down in the field. By the way, now that everything has settled out, Simon Thoreau does find himself 2.3 seconds behind this leading trio, so he has got it all to try to do to catch back up.
I think that's going to be the most difficult thing. How good is the 89 around the track in the ASR Able car? How good is Brockway as a pusher? How good is Michael Diaz as someone who can help assist them with the tow? That's easier said than done when you have three teammates who race at elite level in general across the iRacing platform. This is, again, the dream scenario for Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing, to decide if you can hold the buffer the race amongst yourselves as friends and see which one will get the checker flag for the top points, and how big will it be for the team in turn as a group.
Well, I've got to think here that they're going to abide by what I like to call the Penske principle. Roger Penske very famously at Indianapolis says that it is a team race until the last 5 laps of Indy. And once those last 5 laps come in, then the gloves can come off. You can fight amongst yourselves. But I've got to think here at this point that the primary goal for these 3 drivers is going to help one another and try to force themselves up forward and hold on to that gap as much as possible.
Yeah, you're seeing that right now, even with Ream. He knows chance to bump around, be able to push around at this point. Vigo's got the biggest of the chances to build up a double toe. If he elects to take it, he might have a shot to pass by his fellow mates, since he is representing the Mercedes-AMG manufacturer here. But again, I wouldn't be surprised to see this not intensify too much per se. For now, at least 3 laps, then I see the gloves coming off.
Yeah, I fully agree with you there, Justin. I think we're going to see a lot of formation flying here at this point out of these 3 drivers, and then they will let the gloves off and fight themselves out a little bit more as they run. Let's take a look back at that second pack, though, led by Simon Thoreau, because it's looking pretty intense there. Adam Brockway trying to be able to claw his way back forward. Michael Diaz, Vincent Trepanier all in that pack, as well as Keith Bonilla. It's a very tightly run group here, as there we look onto the back of Keith Bonilla as they come down into the Western Horseshoe, trying to see what they are trying to be able to get themselves to do. And I got to think here that this could be a little bit more of a rambunctious battle, as it were.
At this point, they are not gaining. In fact, they are losing ground by a good second this lap alone, potentially, if not half a second. It's a tough sign and a bad sign when you have a big enough buffer from some cars that you lose said buffer over the course of a couple laps here. I will say this with Bonilla. He's been waiting for the chance to latch on to a few more cars in the YS Motorsport car, a chance to be able to group up with these 4 or with higher spots than where he's running at the end of the top 10. Big chance there. The problem is going to be, what do you do? And who's going to be willing to fight now? With 11 to go, who's going to be saying, there's 11 minutes to go, let's wait until there's 5 minutes to go?
Yeah, who's going to have the patience to be able to hold this out? Who is going to be wanting to be aggressive here early on? Those are going to be the big questions that we ask. That is going to be the biggest thing to see. It looks like here that Brockway's maybe thinking about a move, but no, it's going to be Diaz there working his way around the outside in the Aston Martin. He'll find himself in the lead as they cross over the start-finish line. Is he going to be able to chop down over Thoreau and get that move done? No, it looks like that ASR Able machine is going to be able to hold it out, and now Brockway's going to try to take advantage up to the inside.
We've seen this several times. Brockway likes to take advantage of drivers being a bit aggressive, if not opening up doors for him. This, if anything, is just trying to maintain position, but Michael Diaz had a big chance. If he could clear fully before that start of the corner apex, they might have had a great shot to sort things together. Now, I think they know. It's down to them for the 4 from back spots. They need luck to be able to close up to the leaders at the rate they're going.
Yeah, they need luck. They need some kind of misfortune from this trio up in front. Whoa, his car spinning off in the background. That's Vincent Trepanier. I'm not entirely sure what happened there to him, but that Porsche just suddenly speared off into the grass.
Yeah, watch that run for the outside. Just a little tiny bit loose, it looked like, from Brockway against the curbing, and it just ricochets him up the track. Keep in mind, Trepanier was pushing a bit. There were several more crashes like the in and out is the place where a lot of cars are seeing their races go out, and some drivers have to go in the pit.
Yeah, they certainly are, and that's not going to be helping them whatsoever as they now find themselves farther back down in the order. This is the battle right now with Chris Hudson, Nicholas Belmont, Alex Bergstrom as they try to sort themselves out. That's going to be Hudson just able to hold over Belmont there going down into Le Mans. And now it looks like, I've got to give credit here to Hudson, even with making that pass, it looks like he has got an absolutely stellar run on Alex Bergstrom up ahead of him, and he may be even going for a pass here.
I think it's more so going for the bump. Watch for the eye movement more so. You can see he's kind of just focusing on cars ahead, trying to close up Torchio, I think, more so than anything. Yep, indeed, just being patient, just riding behind the BMW, seeing what their next move is, knowing that 73 car today has been a really good bridge car for all the packs.
Yeah, it really has. It has been a car that has sort of filled the gap in between the two. A little bit of a look down to the inside there as they came down into the International Horseshoe and work their way on through. Looks like as they continue to go, that's Torchio there in the McLaren, starting to get a little bit of a good run here on Jose Lockwood. I don't think that's going to play itself out. And again, we're going to see some patience here coming down into the Western Horseshoe. Nobody's really trying to push ahead too much here at this point. They know what's coming up. They know that the big gap is going to be right up ahead of them in the big run here on the long straightaway. Light dive there from Nicholas Belmont, trying to carry a little bit too much speed into the corner. He had to check himself up. I think that may cost him a chance to be able to move himself ahead.
At least for the time being. And it's important to think about this too, and not just for this battle, for the lead battle as well amongst the teammates. You don't want to make the move too early, right? You put yourself up for grabs if you make the move before, say, the start and finish line for the final lap or that run up to the checker flag. Some drivers like to just wait for that patience moment. They and feel more confident as the aggressor rather than the more passive blocker.
Yeah, they certainly do. I know when I drive, I tend to be a little bit more aggressive, and I need to learn the patience. And you often find that the best drivers out there are the ones that can be patient, that can wait for that opportunity to present itself. And speaking of not waiting for an opportunity here comes Lockwood trying to make a move there to the outside of Patrick Bachelard, seeing if he's going to be able to make that sweep. Also following him on through there was the McLaren of Torchio, trying to see if he can get anything there. The 100 machine of Bachelard looking like he's absolutely been swallowed up coming through turn one.
I think Bachelard, if anything, backed up and seen what was happening there, saying, I want to get single file, but at the same time, missed the corner. Now he hits the curbing and now loses even more time.
Loses even more time. It is just one bad corner to another, as now they look to the inside, the BMW and the Mercedes there. That is Chris Hudson and Nicholas Belmont able to send the move around him. Now it looks like that's going to be Bachelard trying to carry a little bit more speed around the outside. Not going to be able to do it, and now he's going to find himself under attack here from Marlon McMullen.
That's a name we haven't really talked about today with McMullen. He's been that quiet from 23rd spot. And just at this mark, something has to give. Something has to be able to put one driver into that confidence breeding stream. And it seems at this point, right now amongst that confidence level, it's still more so Torchio, if anything, because he's made a lot of friends. So he may have a lot of friends in turn for the final stages to work with.
May indeed. That's one of the things. Racing drivers do have the memory of elephants, and they certainly will remember if something fires itself off here, and they will remember who has run them wrong and who has run them right over the course of a 40-minute race quite like this. Looks like we've got a little bit of a bump draft up ahead in this pack. That's going to be Torchio giving a bump to Jose Lockwood. Trying to move around the outside there is going to be Alex Bergstrom. This is all going to be playing itself out, as behind it looks like we've got a little bit of a link up between Chris Hudson and Nicholas Belmont. Bachelard losing a lot of time there. This looks like it's a true Daytona race running on the oval with the amount of bump drafting that we're seeing. Let's hope all these drivers are able to sort themselves out going down into turn one. They're still going to be side by side, Justin, but they keep it clean.
After having a regroup here, again, needed to make the right decision. Just couldn't get it fully alongside, but it presented itself. A chance to be able to draft off the car along the outside line. Just that boxing effect just trapped them.
And sometimes that may be what we see a little bit here. We may see some of these drivers really attempting to box each other out, make sure that each other are able to hold everything together and prevent a driver from getting themselves forward. That is going to be one of the crucial things here as we make this run to the line, especially in these big gaggles such as this, with as many drivers. As here comes a big dive down to the inside for the 43. Trying to make that move stick was Chris Hudson. I don't think it worked, but he is showing his elbows here with 4 minutes to go.
A little bit more aggression as we were talking about here, but again, Belmont, I'm not surprised to see the elbows out. He was amongst the lead pack at one point, lost the time in the midst of the pit delta. 51.9 seconds in the lane compared to the average of 48 seconds today. So Belmont knows If he didn't have a slower stop window, he might have a chance at 4th spot. Instead, you have to fight for any points you have now with 2 estimated laps to go.
Yeah, you really do. There's no point in waiting around, I think, here. If you are Belmont, you have just got to push, and try to get yourself up ahead. We watch here as this long train continues to work its way through the corner. As you said, the leader's running to the line right now as we've got a little bit of a pass. Bodefer trying to make a move there on his teammate of Justin Ream, and there come the gloves maybe coming off here for this leading trio.
I think if anything, Miguel Vigo tested something out. Not necessarily making the pass to see if it would fully stick. He cleared them both and made it proven if he makes a move to the outside of the final lap, he may steal it. Still side by side in the heart of this pack.
Yeah, the heart of this pack continuing to rage on there as we watch the BMW of Alex Bergstrom trying to make something work there, trying to get around Nicholas Belmont, but that's not going to play, and now he's going to find himself side by side with his fellow BMW driver of Chris Hudson as they work their way through. Looks like Hudson's going to have to back out of that attack as now they come down into the Western Horseshoe, waiting to see what they can play here, trying to see if there's going to be anything to be had. Hudson taking another look down to the inside there of the YS Motorsports driver, and they're going to be side by side coming down into turn 7 and 8.
Bergstrom still amongst those who's basically been running in place today. Remember, he started only 1 spot further up than where he's at right now. Now, with the chance for the white flag around this time, wouldn't be surprised, in fact, to see the white flag with the timing left to go in this race. You have to go. You have to make the move if you feel like you have it.
Exactly. It is push time. It is go time. If you've got the run, there is no point waiting around for it. You have got to get a move on here at this point. As there we take a look up at the leaders. Justin Ream closing down on his teammate John Bodefer as they make the run towards the white flag. Let's see. Does Ream poke his nose to the outside? Does he poke his nose to the inside? Bodefer hugging down to that line. Could it maybe be Miguel Vigo that has a good run here, or do you not want to be in this position at all, Justin? Do you want to be that third car in line when they come out of Le Mans?
Like I mentioned before, when we seen the timing pylon switch around, Vigo, he took the outside run. Then, when he was outside, immediately lost those spots. I think that's the concern. If he makes that move that lap, he doesn't win the race. He might lose it on the final laps. There's a crash in the third pack, though.
Oh my goodness, couple of drivers around. I see Chris Hudson off. We have got multiple drivers involved in this, and that has thrown them all out of whack. But we've got to keep our eyes focused here on the battle for the lead at this point, because it is starting to fire off, and it is starting to get to that electric point. It is Bodefer. Here we go as we watch the replay. Oh, just a little bit of incidental contact there. I think drivers trying to go for the same point on the corner, and it was a massive pile-up.
Bit of error in a couple of cases, but for the most part, you have to try and see what you can make. It's going to be difficult to say lift on the final lap. But now, it's going to be the question. Who's going to go with who? Who's going to be ditched here amongst these teammates? And I think he knows here with this viewpoint. He's about to get zipped by if he doesn't block this off fast.
Yeah, I think you can see that little bit of a smile there from Bodefer. He knows what he's got to do here at this point as he gets a good run out of Le Mans. Marine gets a better run there coming out of the corner. Bodefer immediately up to the high line, trying to defend a little bit. Ream just tucking behind in the draft. Bodefer now going to run down the hill as Ream closes in behind. Vigo going to be also up on that high line as Ream moves his way up. Tries to get a little bit of side draft here as they come through NASCAR 3. They're going to be 3 wide. Here comes the charge from the Mercedes. Contact there from Bodefer. That's enough to send him back down into third place, but he's going to be down on the apron. Does he have enough to try to make it to the line? No, it's going to be Ream by 1/10 of a second. Bodefer and then Vigo.
Bodefer knew what was coming, especially with how aggressive it was on the block coming up through NASCAR 3 and 4. But Ream just timed it up to be able to take away his momentum. Some decent runs for a lot of these cars in the heart of the pack, but great action amongst the Alpine Star Jurassic Racing drivers to be able to break away from the tow, to be able to make sure it was down to them compared to some of this.
And some of this that we see J.R. Williams trying to hold it, a big contact across the line. We've got cars spinning off there. My goodness, J.R. Williams involved in that one in particular. We've got to look a little farther back down in the field, though. This is Kieran Andrew trying to maybe get a move on David Van Roy. Bradley Beeman not able to get it done. They'll stay in single file as they cross over the line, and we've got another pack here farther back down. This is Mike Stevenson trying to see what he is able to hold off over Tommy Brisson and Joe Pegurio. Here they come to the line. Are we going to see this come to tears as well? It doesn't quite look like it. They'll cross in simple order.
And it looks like one car's run out of gas. Ronnie Suarez, who's already been in the wall once today, rolling slowly up the top of the banking. This is a tough spot to run out of gas.
Yeah, it certainly is. He may be able to drive the car down the hill a little bit to try to get a little bit more momentum, but I don't think that's going to be enough, as they're crossing in front of him is Aiden Young, and Ronnie Suarez is going to have to limp to the line here at this point.
Yeah, Suarez essentially on his own here, and I don't think we're going to see any help come into play here. I think he may just get there in time before the in-sim positions lock. Yes, he's got it.
And he is able to cross over the line there just in time to make everything work, as there he goes. And that will bring us to our final finishing order here tonight. Justin Ream able to hold on to that top position, pipping it away at the line over John Bartifer and Miguel Vigo. Then it was Simon Thoreau, followed by Michael Diaz, with Adam Brockway, Keith Bonilla, Jose Lockwood, Nicholas Risaputo, and Alex May rounding out your top 10. Nicholas Belmont had a rough day, running up in the top of the pack and then falling back farther in the day. Then it was Alessandro Torchio and Marlon McMullen in 13th. Patrick Bachelard 14th with Frankie Arvello in 15th. Then it was Vincent Trepanier, Fernando Yaquez, Abner Acosta. A little bit surprising to see him farther back down in the field, but he was a victim of that big coming together that we saw into turn 1. Tony Costello and Philippe Magnan there in P20. 21 was Carlos Villa, followed by Kevin Ayres with J.R. Williams and Drew Lidke 24th. 25th was Arnaud Genet, followed by Chris Hudson and Corey Clark, then David Van Roy, Curlin Andrew, and Bradley Beeman in 30th. 31st was Keaton Marcheski, followed by Darren Rutherford with Eric Ronenberg and Tommy Brisson. Mike Stevenson was in 35th, followed by Andrew Lau, Joy Pegurio, and Brian Hoskins in 38th. Matthew Wyckoff was 39th, with Alex Bergstrom in 40th position. 41st was Aiden Young, followed by Ronnie Suarez, and then we had some drivers that ran into some trouble there today. J.S. Marshall, Jeffrey Seabach, Brian Force, and Marc-Andre Desjardins. And that will lead us into interviews here tonight with your podium finishers. And starting off, it is your race victor, Justin Ream. And Justin, a top 3, 1, 2, 3 for your team, your technical alliance here, and a brilliantly timed run to the end. This one's got to feel good.
Yeah, it's a good way to start off the season, that's for sure.
Well, talk to me a little bit about the strategy going into those last couple of laps. I'm sure you were timing everything out and just trying to be able to get that timing right. It clearly went just about as according to plan as you could hope for.
Yeah, it was. It's just all about, yeah, like you said, it's like playing chess. That's what Daytona basically is trying to time the run out of the bus stop, and then kind of just, it's a drag race to the finish line. So.
Well, you played it well, and I've got to ask you, we turn our sights next time to one of the new circuits on the schedule, Magny Court. Do you like your chances there? How well do you know the circuit, I guess should be the first question.
I haven't done a lap there yet, actually, so it'll be a nice learning experience.
Well, it'll be one that we're looking forward to seeing you guys on. It's quickly becoming a favorite of mine, I have to say. But Justin, another victory here in the PRL GT4 series. Who makes this possible? Who'd you like to thank?
Thanks PRL for putting the league on, and you guys for doing the broadcast, and then also Hydra Race Geodesic for helping out with the team.
Well, thank you so much, Justin. Congratulations again. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
All right, that was Justin Ream, your first place finisher here today. And I believe, Justin, you have been able to catch up with P2, John Bodefer.
And John, leading 11 of the 21 laps today. You worked with your teammates from Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing all race. How difficult is it to finish P2 in this one, though, after leading a majority of the way?
I mean, it's all right. It's a team effort here for this race. We just wanted to try and get a 1, 2, 3, and we were able to do that. So it's a success in my book. Not much I can do in the lead with coming out of the bus stop. I tried to lift a little bit, and Justin lifted. So, P2 it is.
About to say, we were looking at your viewpoint of the webcam as well as how things were faring coming out of turn 2. You kind of had a little smirk on your face where you kind of knew what was coming out of the bus stop, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. We were kind of talking throughout that lap. Like, I just said, are we going for it? What are we doing? And Miggy said he was go with third, so it was just Justin and I. So yeah, I tried to lift out of the bus stop, and he lifted and just followed me. So it is what it is.
Well, you mentioned team effort today. Good start to the season for your team efforts in turn. 26 points to start off the season last round before the holiday break. Now, second place points today. Big time runs for the McLaren. Again, the important thing though is a new circuit coming up. Magny Cours for your group. Your confidence levels on the new French track.
I honestly think it'll be tough for the McLaren with the curbing that you kind of have to jump over. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a fun track to drive. I just think with the car selection we made, it's going to be a tough one for us, but we'll see what happens.
Take the rest of the time, John.
Thank you.
Butterford coming away with the second spot today, the 11 of the 21 laps, DJ.
Yeah, doing a good job there. And finally, we've been able to catch up with P3 Miguel Vigo. And Miguel, we just heard from your teammate that you were kind of okay settling back for third. Is that true, or?
Yeah, I had to settle for third. I underfueled at the pit stop so I could come out with them at the same time. And I just wasn't really too comfortable with the car. I basically just got on when the server came up to practice, so I kind of burned up my tires a little bit trying to fight, make sure, I to stay with them for the pit stop, because that was really the crucial point of the race, was to see who was going to save the most amount of fuel and who was going to get ahead on the pit stop. So yeah.
Well, in terms of that, how much communication do you guys have going on over the course of the race? I'd imagine as teammates that you're talking back and forth to each other quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we didn't really even make a strategy until the start of the race. We just kind of wanted to see how it was going to play out. And then obviously you saw a couple of the guys make a couple moves. And we were just kind of hoping everybody would just kind of settle down, get into the train, because unfortunately Daytona gets really boring when it's just a train. Everybody's trying to save fuel to jump everybody in the pit stops. So right around, I think it was lap 6 or 7, I just try to make that move again like they were doing on the outside, so I could just stay behind John and Justin, and I could try and save fuel. I wasn't really good at saving, unfortunately, so I just had to kind of take the gamble and go a little bit under fuel there at the pit stop, but it worked. So just kind of happy we got the 1, 2, 3, and we're ready for the next round.
Well, speaking of the next round, it is going to be Magny Cours, probably a little less boring of a track, I would have to imagine. Justin was a little bit pessimistic, maybe John was a little bit pessimistic on the chances given your guys' car selection, but how do you think it'll go there?
Actually, to be honest, I don't even know. I've not ran the track at all. It's just, unfortunately, I've been just so busy with work that, the sim life is kind of taking a back seat. So I guess we'll see, find out how it goes. I've never driven the track before. Hopefully I like it. And, hopefully we'll be right up there again for the next round, because I really enjoyed this race, and hopefully the season goes good.
Well, we hope it goes well for you indeed. Anybody you'd like to thank, though, for a third place here today?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all my teammates at Hydra Race, GR86 Racing. I want to thank our new sponsor, Hydra Race, for supporting us through the year for this year, and all our other sponsors, and yeah, you guys as well. You guys are always do an awesome job, and appreciate you guys doing broadcasting.
Well, we are more than happy to. Miguel, thank you so much, and congratulations again on a third place.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
All right, that was Miguel Vigo, your third place finisher, and that's unfortunately going to wrap up the coverage for us here tonight. But as we previewed a little bit earlier, we head back to Magny Cours for the next race, January 16th. We will be here for that doubleheader with the GR86 Cup. But Justin, I have to ask you, any parting thoughts on the day of what were two pretty fantastic races?
Two very exciting races, one which came down to patience, and more patience on how to set things up to win the race. We've seen the driver with the most patience, the driver who was in turn able to jump drivers forward in the pit lane, was able to take advantage of some of the aggression behind them after the stops. And this race, it was teamwork, and more teamwork. In the end, the focus was simple. Which of those teammates would want to take the victory, and where would they want to lie in terms of the points? In our words, two similar but also somewhat different races tonight.
Very, very much so. But we will hopefully have two very similar and just as exciting races next time out, as we said when we send the GT4 Fixed Sprint Series to Magny-Cours. But on behalf of the whole broadcast team here tonight, myself, DJ Clark, as well as Justin Prince and Hugo Luis, it's been an absolute pleasure to bring you the racing action here tonight. And until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.